have you now.
They want to mess with my droid. They're going to pay for it.
This is the way.
You may fire when ready.
Blow that piece of junk out of the sky!
The way you're fighting, you wouldn't have lasted long.
Hello there.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Okay, so Martin Scorsese almost certainly doesn't like Star Wars. I mean, he probably doesn't like Star Wars. We don't know anything about his opinion on Star Wars, but we know that he has made comments about comic book movies and blockbusters in general. He and George Lucas have had disagreements on, what cinema is and if it can be real cinema if it's a blockbuster. But I, for one, am confident that if Martin Scorsese gave Andor a watch, he would call it absolute cinema, just like the meme. He would do the hand gesture, he would do everything, because barring the fact that it's a TV show, it is actual cinema. It is absolute cinema. This season of Andor is frankly peak already, and we're only a quarter of the way through it. Andor's been my favorite thing to come out of Disney Star Wars since Rebels. So since the beginning, this is the best thing that they've done. I think it's an all-time great piece of television to boot. Like, it's not Breaking Bad as far as TV goes, but it's the Breaking Bad of Star Wars, and it's pretty dang good. Close to Breaking Bad, I would even say. And Tony Gilroy is fully aware of what he's done here, because in a recent interview he mentioned that it's his hope that the success of Andor opens the door for other genres to come into Star Wars, like horror or comedy or things like that, because this is, Star Wars' first foray into a true political thriller. We got the second kind of thing with Skeleton Crew, where it was like the kid-centric story, but that wasn't near as daring as this political thriller, and frankly, it's just not as good as Andor. I'm not a Skeleton Crew hater, but Andor is just up here on a pedestal for me, especially after they hit a home run with the beginning of this second season. So let's dive into the intrigue, the spycraft, and the drama that built the rebellion in 4BBY, and let's do it with my co-host, the tenacious test pilot himself, Colin Archer.
Hey, Carter, man, it's so glad to be back on this thing. Gosh, there's a lot to this in there. I really liked your intro. I don't know if I want to compare anything Star Wars to a comic book movie, but I know that's kind of like a cynical perspective for even Scorsese to have. I don't like that gatekeeping he does, but whatever. If you're buying a ticket and having fun, it's a movie, right? And so this is hard to even call this TV. It feels like a movie to me, right? It was. Yeah, I mean,
3 hours altogether.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, they're not giving podcasters any breaks. They're not making our job easy, because we basically have to break down a movie. The rumors at the beginning were that every week they were going to release 3 episodes. I don't think that's the case. I think they are now going to the single episode format. And I might just be trying to speak that into existence, because I really, really want that to be the case.
Yeah, man. And this episode it opens really good. Of the 3, I think this episode was my favorite.
The first one. Yeah, the first one, it's very strong. I can't say that the show so far is flawless. I watched it all the way through on Tuesday night, and then I watched it all the way through again with my wife to take the podcast notes. And, we both had some critiques, her fresh eyes and my second eyes. We're not going to just give this a 100 out of 100, but it's pretty dang close. And so we can get into some of the reasons that maybe the first episode is the best of them, because the other 2 episodes just have a couple little hiccups that we might want to talk about. But let's dive into that first episode. So 1 year later is the title of the episode. They also display that on the screen, and so you would think that it's just not the title of the episode. None of the others are titled, or where the titles display. It's not like Ahsoka. But I was so excited to see the slow fade into the Andor logo. I mean, I was just so hyped for this. It's been years.
And the music is a cherry on top on this thing too.
It is. I mean, we just, we did not review Andor when it was going on. We reviewed it all at once in a chunk after it ended, and that was a lot of fun. I'm happy we did that because we got to see the whole story behind it. That's not something we normally do. We do a lot of guessing and predicting a lot of the times. But with Andor, I'm happy that we waited until it was over to kind of break it down. And those were some of my favorite podcast episodes we've ever recorded because this is some of my favorite Star Wars. I mean, if we could go back in time and start our podcast around Rebels, I'd probably feel the same way.
For sure.
I probably wouldn't feel the same way because Rebels is I watched it all the way through when it came out, but it's much more bingeable. I mean, there's a couple episodes that if they came out, like the Lando episode, I'd be like, man, I don't know what I could rate this episode. But seeing it all come together is important. But for Andor, I mean, it's just going to be a treat from the very beginning for us to get to talk about this. So, like I said in the intro, it starts in 4 BBY. That's 4 years before the Battle of Yavin. And so we know that each trio of episodes is supposed to take place in a different year. So this is the 4 BBY set of episodes. It has a stellar opening shot. I mean, they knew exactly what they were doing. Dark room, flip the lights on, and boom, you have a TIE fighter of some kind in the middle of the room.
Yeah, it looks
Colin
like a
and
TIE
I
Interceptor advanced prototype thing, like a TIE advanced crossed with it. It's so cool.
Exactly. Yeah, you had said TIE Advanced Interceptor mashup. I was confident it was a TIE Interceptor. That was basically the only discussion we had before the episode was what was that ship. But I learned it's actually got a name. It's called the TIE Avenger. And while that is a prototype, that is meant to be a new line of TIE fighter that never got developed. Probably because it's really expensive. The thing's got 3 seats and a hyperdrive in it.
And armed to the teeth. Missiles, like a plasma cannon thing I don't think we've ever seen, and chain cannon lasers. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine in the bureaucracy of the Imperial Navy that they're weighing this thing alongside Thrawn's TIE Defender, and they're just like, apparently the TIE Defender is the cheaper and better option, even though that's the central plot of Rebels is that it's so dang expensive. And so it's really, really cool to see this ship. And we see a technician kind of checking out the systems, and then she goes and speaks with Cassian, who is sitting in like a break room, basically, dressed as a TIE test pilot. And so they're talking about the ship. She's like, it's ready to go. And then they're running through their cover story, that they were flirting, that Cassian's a brand new pilot that just got there, and he's just got the first day jitters, so he's looking around the mess hall.
Yeah, and all these scenes are so cool. The planet, Sinar Test Facility 73, the hangars. Once again, it bats it out of the park on these settings. Really cool.
Well, it's a testament to the fact that they can do all this intrigue, all this legitimate TV production, all of this really good story, but still throw in EU Star Wars elements. And we've never seen Sinar before in canon, to my knowledge. I'm pretty positive we haven't, except maybe in a comic book somewhere. And this is us getting to see that. And so for huge Star Wars fans, or people who are familiar with the EU or who are familiar with the canon, then it's a huge treat. But you don't have to have that. And there's other moments in this episode that being familiar with the canon will definitely deepen your appreciation of the episode in a big way. But it doesn't make it a requirement. It doesn't make it a necessity. And that's all right. I mean, just seeing Sinar on there is part of that. So we've got that tech looking at the system. She goes to talk to Cassian about the cover story, and then they immediately have to put the cover story into practice when one of her coworkers shows up. But it goes off without a hitch. We see it succeed. And then the tech is just so nervous and so scared, as anybody in that position would be, because we learn this is her very first act of rebellion. Like, she is uncomfortable with what the Empire is doing, and this is it. This is her life. I mean, she's done after this. She's going to have to flee Sinar. She's going to go into hiding. She's going to work for the rebellion. And she can't even look at Cassian. She's been briefed to not even look at him.
Yeah, and she's got a bunch of friends here, I mean, it's a really big deal for her to take this kind of step.
Yes, it is. It's a huge deal. And, she's asks him questions, and then she says, wait, don't answer that. I shouldn't ask you that. She's just so nervous and so unused to this. And it's a big indicator in showing us that the rebellion is just made of regular people. I mean, it's Luke Skywalker's story, just a regular boy from Tatooine, but taking these steps that they feel are morally right. and standing up for what they believe in. And that's just it's already communicated in this little bitty scene with this character that I don't even think we'll ever see her again. That's kind of the point, really, is that Cassian says, "Well, I'll see you along the road," but by saying that he means there's no chance, or not no chance, but very unlikely we'll ever run into each other again, despite working for the same cause now for the rest of their lives, at least in Cassian's case.
Yeah. For sure.
It also shows us kind of how the cells intersect for the rebellion, and they don't cross again until the alliance is formed, and the disconnected nature of the alliance, which is important because it becomes painfully obvious in the next couple episodes that's the case. And that's what they were really trying to hammer home, is that the alliance is not one organization yet.
Yeah, really disjointed.
Yeah, exactly. So Cassian goes to the ship, gets in it, and immediately panics because he does not recognize the cockpit. He doesn't know what's going on. Doesn't look familiar to him. And that's kind of the spy movie trope, or the political thriller trope, or just in this position at all, is this is all about working on the fly. I mean, there's a reason that Luthen trusts Cassian, and it's because he doesn't just give up in that moment. He doesn't just turn tail and run. He just sits down and tries to figure it out. And that's basically what you have to do in those situations, because you're never working with perfect information when it comes to espionage.
Yeah, this was a really scary scene, too. And Diego Luna, man, he did a good job seeing that look on his face and just the distress there. So cool.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So he gets behind the controls and immediately crashes it backwards. And he flies erratically. He's shooting the guns, and just, it's not intuitive at all for him. And so this causes a lockdown, obviously. The doors start to close, and stormtroopers are flooding into the room. But Cassian just vaporizes these guys.
Yeah, when it was supposed to be just this carefree thing. Doors are open, droid's dead, doesn't say anything, and fly off. Just easy peasy. But nope. It's about as disastrous as it could possibly go. But that makes for a great story, right? Every scene that happens after this, dodging the missile from the missile trooper, who looks straight off the board game from Star Wars Legion, by the way. He's so cool looking. He's a snow trooper, though. And there's the implied blown through the door is really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's so cool. I mean, he blows up that guy with the RPG. He blows a hole in the door. He cuts through it and then just slams through it. And then gets kind of stuck. He hurdles right off to a cliff edge and stops short. But then the ship dies, and these TIE fighters are coming in. They're launching missiles at him. It's just every moment is you're already on the edge of your seat. This is a great opening sequence for the show. I mean, it really puts the show back right at the forefront of your mind immediately.
What feels really cool is that it looks, I mean, we're not TIE fighter pilots. We wish we were X-Wing pilots. But these things, it looks like, we saw Luke Skywalker, right, shoot the torpedoes into the tube on the Death Star, right? And that was this really cool technical pilot flying sequence made in the late 70s with all practical effects. I kind of wonder if this whole in the hangar thing was a practical effect. At least the cockpit is, because they had to shoot some scenes inside of there. But, him having to on the fly learn these controls and seeing how the targeting systems are detecting these missiles. It's like they use some sort of Tesla full self-driving thing where they're detecting the missiles coming in. He's able to dodge them or shoot them down and all these other things. Later on in episode 3, it does some of the similar stuff. But also where he's flying under this rock formation is, he's got some tactical prowess that most people don't. It's really cool.
Yes, no, it's super cool because, like you said, I mean, maybe that's why it's also so expensive and probably didn't get made, is because it's just got all these bells and whistles like that automatic targeting system. And yeah, they show us it in these scenes, and then it really comes into handy in the third episode. And so it looks, they establish it really well. It's just a little bit of a teaser for it. But it's a really cool system. And it's, we touched on the weapons, but has the missiles, it's got those rotary cannons, it's got that big giant TIE blaster in the middle. I mean, it's all so cool.
It is. And then it looks like TIE Advanced prototypes are chasing him too. Very neat.
Yes, yeah. So the ones chasing him, they look like the TIE Advanced X1, which is what the Inquisitor flew. I don't think Inquisitors are chasing Cassian down, but it looks like that ship went into a little bit higher production. And you'd expect it, at least on Sinar, for them to have like the best and the baddest TIE fighters protecting their stuff.
Yeah, for sure. They're cool looking in this.
Yes, they are. They're very cool. And this is our first live action look at TIE fighters like that. We haven't seen those TIE fighters except in animation and on the X-Wing tabletop. Rest in peace. So Cassian takes off into space, proves to us, this ship has to have a hyperdrive. They're not going to let something like that slip. And so we then cut to a different planet. We cut to a planet called Mina Rao, and we get a very eerie first-person shot. It's uncharacteristic of anything we've seen in Star Wars yet. It's just a guy walking up to basically this open-air shack. We see Willman.
It's an RV. It's an
RV.
Wars
You're
RV.
right. It's an open-air
awesome.
RV. Yeah. We see Willman asleep in a hammock out front, and when I saw that, it's harvest on this planet, and he's outside among all of this grass. We live in an area where they do a lot of farming. If you did that, you would be the most uncomfortable person in the world the next day. There's no way coming from some other planet where they don't even grow grain that your body would be able to handle sleeping outside with all of that. But it looks beautiful. I wish I lived somewhere I could sleep outside like that. So we see Willman in that shot, and the first person continues until he gets inside and looks in the mirror, and we see that it's the crazy scientist that tortured Bix on Ferrix. And so we know this is a dream sequence at this point, but he walks up to the bed, and then the blanket is tugged off of Bix, and she screams. She freaks out. She's having a night terror. She's having a nightmare. And we realize that it's a dream sequence. But it's actually revealed that Brasso was coming to help her from her night terror, that he was trying to calm her down and wake her up. And that shows us that...
Sequence. I love how they revealed the character in the mirror. So
yes, it was great. It was a really, really good shot. The cinematography on this shot was really good. And this shows us, this is where Brasso and the rest of the Ferrix crew, this is where they're hiding out now, is this RV, like you said. So we're getting updates from everybody. We got Cassian, we got the Ferrix crew. Now we're going to head to Chandrilla, where we see Lita, Mon Mothma's daughter, taking her friends to see her wedding dress. And so now we see that it's the big wedding for that was mentioned last season. And so Mon and her husband Perrin land and are immediately inundated with wedding planning, with all the wedding planning stuff, which is super real. I mean, I had a wedding 3 years ago, and this show very effectively communicates the tropes of a real-world wedding in Star Wars terms,
For sure.
and how hectic it is. So,
yeah, man, isn't Chandrilla an awesome-looking planet?
Gah, I know. I'm so happy we finally got it on screen. It is so awesome to see it like this. I'm very, very pleased that we got Chandrilla.
And just these opening scenes look so cool. Just the costumes that all these characters wear.
It's an opulent place. I mean, it's an Alderaan style place. Like, no one wants on Chandrilla.
Yeah. I just love how put together it is. It's really cool looking.
Yeah, it is. It's super cool. So we then have Mon Mothma. She sees someone, we don't know who yet, and kind of freaks out. And she's heading down the stairs to go greet this person. She passes her cousin, Vel Sartha, who was leading the team on Aldhani, leading the Aldhani heist. She was one of the perpetrators on Aldhani last season. And we learn at the very end of the first season that her and Mon Mothma are actually cousins and related. But that Vel kind of abandons this Chandrillan lifestyle completely. Not in a way that Mon does, at least not until much later. But she continues down the stairs and runs into Luthen Rael. Well, first she runs into Tay Kolma, her friend who she had to make the chair of her fake charity that is the front for the rebellion to keep getting funded. And he asks to speak with her, and he seems just a little bit nervous, but she's super busy, and they decide that they'll speak later. And Mon can tell something is troubling Tay, and that becomes a central point of the next 3 episodes. It's an important little tidbit that Tay is worried about something.
Yeah, and he won't spill the beans either. Not that it's annoying, literally, for the entertainment of the show, but you could see the annoying, like how nonplussed and annoyed Mon is with him. Because he's just like, oh, I'll tell you when we get back to course. I was like, man, tell me now. Let's go. We're at my house. We can go into the back room.
Yeah, exactly. Like we need to know now, especially when he's the front for your insurgency illegal activity. Like anything's wrong with that guy, got to be priority number 1 to immediately speak to him.
But so I can't imagine how frustrated. It's just so, it bothers me, but in a fun way.
Yeah. Great anxiety. So we see that Luthen is the one who has landed there, which is, it's a twist because he really has no reason to be there. Luthen's not Chandrillan. Yes, he's friends with Mon Mothma, but this seems to be insulated pretty much to just Chandrillans. And so she's concerned with why he's there, but he's in his antiques trader disguise, and not in his, rebellion look. And they're both intercepted.
Because if he's there, there's something wrong. It's like,
right.
It's not necessarily that being true, but it's like, you saw the look on her face.
Why else would he be there?
Oh my gosh, this can't be good.
Absolutely. Why else would he be there at all, really?
He's like an anti-Palpatine almost. He's got all these schemes and machinations, in a sense, but for the rebels, or against the Empire. So when you see this guy, it'd be like if you were in on Palpatine, and so if you saw Palpatine show up and you knew he was Darth Sidious, you're like, you know what? I think we're going to go for now. Thanks for lunch. Have a good day. I saw Senator Palpatine's here. Bye, y'all.
Right. Time to go.
Stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So Luthen and Mon Mothma are intercepted by Davos Skolden, who invited Luthen there for a surprise, unknown to us and unknown to Mon Mothma. And then so they kind of shoo Mon Mothma away because of the surprise. It clearly has to do with the wedding. Davos Skolden is not familiar with Luthen's rebel persona. And so then Vel is kind of standing there wondering sourly why Luthen is there. And really it's just because they're all super nervous. Like you said, Luthen is like the Grim Reaper. Like he's a bad thing if he's coming around. And there's so many rebel operatives here now. You've got Vel, you've got Mon Mothma, you've got Tay, who is tangentially involved. You've got Luthen, and you've got Clea, Luthen's assistant. And all of them are out in the open. They are nearly going to be compromised. I mean, Clea and Luthen have a conversation right after this about how they know Cassian got away, but they don't know anything else. He should have called in by now, and he hasn't. And they can't call out because they're too exposed. They're too out in the open. There's no way to mask. They don't have their fancy listening equipment. And so they're just kind of flying blind right now. And so everybody is on edge at this wedding.
Yeah, and that's almost an understatement. From the Empire's perspective, it's like all the cockroaches are out in the open waiting to be stamped on.
Right, exactly.
That's a silly analogy, I agree, because they're not cockroaches. They're doing the right thing. But, being exposed like that is dangerous.
Yes, it is. It's super dangerous to be exposed like that for them, and they all know it. But that's kind of the theme of this first episode is everyone has just not gotten comfortable, but things are heating up. Just like this exact same theme follows in Rebels. Rebels follows the same timeline as Andor as it goes 5 BBY, 4 BBY, and just keeps going on and on. And this is the same kind of thing where they know that it's heating up and the Empire's only tightening its grip, and we see that a bunch of times already in these 3 episodes. And so we head back to Mina Rao, where we see Wilman and Bix speaking as they repair some kind of harvesting equipment. But Wilman and her are having a concerned conversation about how they're not on the planet legally. But then Wilman's approached by Bela a girl that he's interested in. But before they can really get anywhere, we see a Gozanti cruiser in the background, and everybody is terrified.
Yeah, as they should be. Could you imagine seeing something like that floating around? It'd be awful.
Yeah, it would be terrifying. You're sitting there, you're illegally on this planet, you were part of a, like, terrible riot, and it would just be, your heart would be pounding. You wouldn't be able to sleep. You already wouldn't be able to sleep, and it would be terrible.
Yep. And it's like a layered, compounded thing. This is an agri world. There's plenty of people here, but not like Coruscant, not like even a moderately populated planet. It's, most of this is probably, done by droids, and it's probably mainly mechanics and helpers here, not necessarily a bunch of just big city folk living. I mean, we saw the first city. It's teeny tiny, smaller than even the small towns we're used to. It looked like.
Yes, absolutely. And so, yeah, everybody knows everybody here. And, they talk about, they're like, they have to have illegals to harvest the grain here. And so they're not the only illegal people on planet, but they are the only people who also have a criminal background, assumedly, that is not just being on a planet illegally, but is inciting a riot. And so they have reason to be concerned. We cut back to Cassian landing the TIE Avenger at a rendezvous point on a jungle planet. And he gets out to approach his meeting point, but he's yelling for his contact Porco. The guy's not responding. And then all of a sudden, Cassian gets shouted down and threatened by a voice from the trees who says there's 15 guns on him. And then the voices from the trees just start to argue with each other. They start to bicker. And Cassian's confused, and he's saying, I'm not Imperial. He kind of realizes they're rebels. But that doesn't matter to them, because why would you believe that? And so he's just rushed by 15 people, and he's basically just confused the whole time. We then cut to, like, the best reveal of the episode, which is at the Malthine Divide, which is super cool. It's like an evil villain lair, where we get to hear the voice of Ben Mendelsohn's Orson Krennic. And he's speaking to a room full of Imperial officers. Got the Imperial Navy, got other Imperial branches. We've got Leo Partagaz, the ISB officer from last season, and Deidre Miro. And Krennic is speaking to them about something so top secret that their supervisors don't know, their colleagues can't be told, Tarkin doesn't know, Yularen doesn't know, and they'll be filled in. And he says this is the tightest circle of security possible. We obviously know that this is tied to the Death Star project. This is tied to Project Stardust, and we know anything that Krennic's involved in is directly tied to the Death Star. But it seems that nobody else in the room is even aware of that.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about.
It is, because the scale of the project.
And all this other stuff, it's crazy.
Well, imagine being Leo Partagaz. He's an old man in the Imperial Security Bureau, or Yularen's an even better example. They served in the Republic. We know that for a fact with Yularen. We can assume that Leo Partagaz did as well. And this project's been going on under their nose for the past 15 years, and they're still not being let in whatsoever. Nobody knows, has any idea, and just a very small handful of people realize it. And that's very interesting that they are able to hide the Death Star like that. It's a super cool concept, and this continues to build around like its own isolated story within the Star Wars universe. We talk about the Mando-verse a lot, where it's all those stories tied together with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, but there's a Rogue One verse. I mean, there's a Cassian verse, basically, and a Krennic verse that is all about the Death Star and its construction. There's books and comics and multiple seasons of television and a movie all about just that. And it's really, really good.
And
so,
then, like this what we're about to talk about, there's been these exact same meetings. We saw one in Attack of the Clones that Obi-Wan was spying on, right? And there's another one either before that or after that. It's like, yeah, we're fixing to enslave all these Geonosians to build this thing. Sorry.
Right, exactly.
Exact same thing, exact same themes. that's happening right here.
Because they've been working on this project for a long, long time. I mean, we see these kind of secret Imperial meetings. We get it at an episode, or we get it in the Bad Batch. Then the episodes where Tech dies. It's at Tarkin's. And that was the one thing, is they're both on these frost planets, and the base is on a cliff, and they're kind of in this boardroom that Darkins is like, there's a lot of parallels here that they maybe could have moved away from. Why Tarkin could have had a beachfront property or something. But anyway, he dims the lights and plays a video about the Gorman, which is a people and a planet, and the spiders of theirs that make some kind of silk on their planet for clothing. And everyone's really confused on why they're showing this. And it's like a minute-long scene. I mean, it is from the 1960s travel advert about a Star Wars planet. And it's not, I mean, that's like one for one what it is. It's got the cheesy narrator who is talking like this, and it's got all the travel advertising and all the Gorman spider spinning silk all night long. That
like
kind of thing.
Talking about how Pop-Tarts are made or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. And so it's pretty interesting, but it gets the point across, and it's another one of those that shows up so much in Andor, of them just transitioning regular stuff that we're super familiar with in our real culture and putting it in Star Wars, and just Star Warsifying it enough.
And then one thing I want to add to this is a really fun sci-fi trope where entire planets are dedicated to one single product. You know, here on planet Earth, you know, we got petroleum, and we've got our own textiles, and we've got all kinds of other commodities. You know, there's commodities to a lesser degree on this planet, but it lives or dies by this silk is the main point that they're trying to make here. And
absolutely.
It's cool to, you know, this is kind of, you know, we have countries that do that in a sense, but on a galaxy-wide scale, it's a fun idea where a whole planet, and I've seen this in tons of sci-fi stuff, where whole planets do just one thing. It's neat.
Mm-hmm. It is neat. And so we're talking about the Gorman, and knowledgeable fans of Star Wars, fans of the canon, will recognize Gorman for two reasons. So it's briefly mentioned by Mon Mothma in Season 1, but in Rebels, the Gorman massacre is actually the impetus for Mon Mothma taking the Rebel Alliance public and her going into hiding. Whatever happens on Gorman, whatever massacre is perpetrated, is enough for Mon Mothma to take the Alliance public. And so we can assume that's either going to happen. Yeah, we are going to get to see that. I mean, so the Rebels episode it happens in, the whole plot line is her getting to the Ghost Crew, and them, you know, ferrying her to the next destination. And so we saw some leaked set photos more than a year ago of Andor Season 2 of Cassian kind of escorting Mon Mothma, and I think we are confidently going to get to see some of the Rebels crew, or at least the Ghost ship, out there as Cassian takes Mon Mothma to where she needs to go.
The actors are all out there, so I mean it's not impossible. All the assets, Zeb's in there, so maybe we'll get a shot of Kanan or something, or that'd be neat. I don't know.
It'd be awesome.
Is he in here at that point? I don't know.
Yeah. So we know what's coming for Gorman. As Krennic says, Gorman is of great interest to the Empire, and so having that knowledge from Rebels, we know what's gonna happen. But for now we cut back to Cassian, and he is just shouting about the ruined ship because Porco's ship was apparently worked before those rebels showed up, which I don't know why they busted that ship. That didn't make I didn't figure that out. But Cassian says this ship worked or something like that, and so he's very concerned about that, and he's asking where his contact is. But the rebels bind him, they threaten him, but they continue to bicker with each other the whole time while they're questioning Cassian. They're asking him what happened, and he says he stole this ship for the rebellion. And then when they ask whose rebellion, he will not say. He refuses to say. Like a good soldier, Cassian's following orders. And so the rebels tell him that they killed his friend because he was hostile. Then they kind of just to try and scare Cassian, which is just not going to happen with the way they're sitting there bickering and arguing with each other.
Yeah, it's crazy to watch these guys interact with just anything. They're so disjointed. I loved seeing how this evolved.
Yeah. So back to Krennic, he starts talking about energy independence. So this is the explicit cover for the Death Star. This is the public cover for the Death Star, is that they want to create sustainable, unlimited energy. And so he says, he actually uses the words, access to unlimited power will transform the galactic economy and solidify Imperial authority. I laughed so hard when he said that. I was like, that's so cool that they were able to work that in there, because true from a certain point of view, the unlimited power they're talking about is not what people would think it is. And that's just super, super funny. I'd credit to Tony Gilroy for being able to write that in.
Yeah, really, that's hilarious.
And it shows, it shows a depth of familiarity with, like, not just Star Wars, but with the Star Wars fan culture and the memes and stuff. I mean, people are aware of that. And so it's pretty good. I was impressed that got written in by Tony Gilroy, of all people. So we learn that Gorman has calcite, which is just some mineral that they need to cover the reactor lenses. And Krennic says that they will have to tighten their grip on Gorman to secure this resource. And, if the Gorman as a people will not let them do that, then this council has been brought together to figure out how to deal with that. But back to the Rebels for a minute. They are trying to figure out how to fly the ship that Cassian brought, the TIE Avenger, and they have absolutely no idea, because Cassian didn't even know how. And he certainly has more training than any of these people. And they're starved. They're half delirious. They're in a bad, bad way on this planet. But then they take us back to the Imperial meeting. There's a lot of bouncing back and forth, and not just in this episode, but in all of the episodes so far. I mean, it's a lot of 30-second scene and then back somewhere else, and a minute-long scene and then back somewhere else. But so back to the Imperial meeting, they reveal that there is a problem with mining on Gorman, because you're like, why not just move them and mine anyway? And the answer is, it's going to ruin the planet. It's going to make the planet uninhabitable. They say it's going to collapse the planet.
Which sounds like what they're already, drawing some, what do you call that? What they're doing to Ilum to get all the crystals out and eventually make Starkiller Base. That's the connecting the dots there. So it's like, I'm picturing this in my head, and this is like only knowledge that if you're really deep into this stuff, you'll know. Because Starkiller Base just was. You have to go digging deep down in layers to find out it was Ilum, let alone what Ilum even is. I think that's only in the cartoons and probably some Legends novels and stuff.
Yeah, it's cartoons and video games. That's it. Yeah.
So this mining process it sounds ludicrous on its face, but then if you know the deep dark secrets of Star Wars, it's not impossible. It's actually quite practical. Right.
Well, and that's even, they blame the Jeddah being destroyed by the Death Star on a mining accident. And we see in a comic book just like 2 years later, the whole planet is cracked and it's debris. It's not Alderaan. It's not just little rocks. It's like a few big chunks, but it's a bunch of chunks. Like, it's not a planet anymore. And so people of the Star Wars galaxy are willing to accept that mining can be that dangerous, that mining can compromise the integrity of your planet. And so they set that up. They're ready for that kind of inevitability. So back to the Rebels. They're trying to. Oh nope, sorry, I did that. They're trying to figure out the ship. That was me getting messed up on the notes. So we're still at the Imperial base, and Leo brings up that Gorman has political power and influence, and that this is going to be a problem. They're not just going to be able to waltz in there, kick the Gorman out of their homes, and start drilling for this, because the Imperial Senate still exists. I mean, this whole time period before the Battle of Yavin, before the first Death Star exists, before Palpatine dissolves the Imperial Senate, this doesn't function as a complete dictatorship. Palpatine does a bunch of stuff behind the scenes that the Senate doesn't know about, like the Death Star, but he still, at least on face, has to answer to the Senate and has to answer to the galactic public. It takes the Empire quite a while to actually firm their grip up on the galaxy. But that's what causes the rebellion, is it just continues to get tighter and tighter. I mean, that's what the Bad Batch is about. We see that through its 3 seasons.
Which, if the Death Star were not destroyed, that would have been like the final iron grip. Because, we're going to show up on your planet. We're going to take whatever we want, and if you don't like that, we'll send the Death Star there. Here's all
Right.
what happened to Alderaan. Sorry for you.
Yep, exactly. And so the implication that the Empire still has to rely on this political power and influence is why institutions like the Senate and the Ministry for Enlightenment and the Imperial Security Bureau still exist. Palpatine basically wants to make those obsolete so he can go off and do his own Sith stuff. The Death Star is a building block in his eternal rule for Palpatine. So the rebels back on the jungle planet meet to decide Cassian's fate. He's been assigned one guard, and so he's trying to talk his guard into running away. He's trying every tactic he can. He's like, man, they must think you're stupid, stuff like that. It's not working at first, but Cassian sees they haven't eaten in 2 days, and the guy immediately, how did you know we've been here that long? And Cassian's like, I was here 3 days ago. I told you that I was here. And so Cassian is brought to the rebels while they're arguing, and we learn that they're arguing because their leader is missing in action, probably dead. I mean, presumed dead. And there's just no clear chain of command, which is like rule number one for establishing some kind of group like this is plan your successor in case something bad happens or your group is gone immediately.
Especially when you have these ragtag, basically vagabonds. I mean, they have very little skills. They have very little. They're just not capable people at all.
Right. Yeah. They're not mercenaries. They're not trained soldiers. I mean, this is one of the worst rebel cells, actually. One of the least disciplined and trained.
They're the bullet catchers of the rebels.
Yeah. Yes. And so Cassian goes up to the group after the guard lets him because he proves to the guard who he is, kind of. And Cassian knows who this group is. He says, you're the Maya Pay Brigade, which is another rebel cell. And Cassian says they've been supplying the Maya Pay Brigade. Well, they're all like, what? Who are you with? And Cassian goes, I'm not going to tell you that. And and they were like, we told you. And he goes, well, you should be more careful. And the guy who spilled the beans lunges at Cassian. He's so mad. But Cassian's right. Yeah. That's undisciplined. And that shows you that these people aren't on the level of coordination or professionalism as Luthen. Like, it's just a matter of time before they get killed or captured, really. So that they lunge at Cassian, and then it cuts back to the Imperials, and Krennic references the men of the Ministry of Enlightenment. They're sitting there at the table, and this is a propaganda ministry. These guys are PR guys, down to the bone. They're super slimy. I mean, they really lean into their salesmanship, and so these PR guys explain to the group that there's a bad reputation. There's a stereotype about Gormans, about them being arrogant. And that is totally fabricated by the ministry. That they made all of that up in preparation for this. That they've been, tainting the Gorman's galactic image for this very purpose. And so that just shows you the way that all of these imperial cogs mesh together, and just how any of these totalitarian states. I mean, the USSR had the exact same thing. Had a ministry of propaganda where you would, you'd open the paper and you'd just read lies the whole time, and Pravda. And so it's the exact same thing with this ministry of propaganda.
Yeah, and in this case, it's overtly gross. I guess in this room, where everybody's in on it, it's kind of obvious. But they're all arrogance. That's such this. People are gonna. It's one of those insidious things that confirms what people think anyway. Sometimes there's lots of really bad in real life history that all these little white lies, and I don't know a better term. It's not a white lie. It's a lie overtly, but it just sounds. I'm just having an opinion, man. I'm just asking questions. I'm not allowed to have an opinion. Stuff like that, and it brainwashes people over time. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I mean, this is just the same thing that you see out of any tool. So that it can be used for good or evil. I mean, it's not like advertising. I mean, advertising gets a little extreme sometimes, but it's not like advertising is inherently evil. Advertising is just a way to sell your product. But this is the evil side of advertising, is that we've gamed out. Yeah, exactly. We've gamed out and mathed out how we can get X number of people to believe a thing if we deploy this kind of propaganda over time. Well, they're using the same formulas that ad executives do. It's just in a way darker way. It's just for a way worse cause than trying to sell you shampoo. So back to Cassian. Like I said, there's a lot of whiplash in this episode. We're back to Cassian in the woods, and they're sitting around, and Cassian says, why haven't you gone and gotten food? And they say there's beasts out in the woods and that they're not able to do that. And so that just is setting us up for later. I mean, now we know the beasts are coming. Chekhov's beasts right there.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, so trap one of them and kill him. You're armed to the teeth. We've watched these things die with single blaster bolts in other movies. Surely it can't be that hard.
There's 15 of you. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this whole other layer of incompetence with these guys that's revealed here.
Yes, it is. Because Cassian, I mean, later on, is able to avoid these things pretty easily. But anyways, we see the Imperial meeting has been broken up. They're taking a break, and so people are having little side conversations. They're talking about drilling and how there's a new armory built for this project and all of this scaling up. And Krennic approaches Deidre Miro and asks her for an assessment. She pretends to be aloof and not have an opinion, but in a moment of strength, like in a really good Krennic moment, he's just like, quit acting that way. Like, I know that you've got an opinion. I order you to tell me what you're thinking. There's a reason you're in this room. If you didn't have an opinion, you wouldn't be here. And so she kind of gets bullied into it. But she tells him, using her expertise she gained last season of Andor, she explains that Krennic is going to need an insurgency. She's going to need someone to blame. He's going to need someone to do the wrong thing at the right time so that he can pounce on it and use that to the benefit, and to use that to perpetrate the Gorman massacre, basically.
Yeah. And seeing, I love this character as an antagonist is so cool, because she's got this wisdom and power that is she's holding a good hand of cards, and you know it, but you don't know what it is, kind of type thing. And it's cool to see how this character is going to grow into the role.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I'm super excited to see where she goes over the rest of the season. She was already compelling. And like you said, we got to see her kind of build that experience and understand how these rebel networks work. And this is just another thing based in reality. This is another thing based in the real world. Like, governments have used real-world rebels to justify things that they've done, atrocities, or, actually just helping people away from rebels, because sometimes rebels are terrorists. But they use these attacks as excuses and pretense for things. I mean, that's a common thing that happens in the real world. And so all of this logically would happen in the Star Wars galaxy on scales like this. And so it's cool to see that on the screen. It's just, this whole show is about the meat behind what it means to actually have a galactic rebellion. Like, the original trilogy obviously is amazing and shows us, but it's about the heroes and it's about the mysticism and their journey, whereas there's a real world cogs and machine behind that rebellion. And you have to see how a rebellion works. There's no reason that the Star Wars rebellion would not obey the rules of a real world rebellion.
Right.
So back to Mina Rao. The Ferrix group is concerned because Cassian still isn't back yet, and we learn that there's going to be an Imperial census, and that they are all going to be questioned about their visa status and where they came from. And so this is like a nightmare scenario for these people. Like, this is terrible. They don't decide to get out of Dodge until the very end, because they don't even have a ship, I presume. I think Cassian has the only ship. And so they're stuck. Now they're just trying to figure out how to circumvent and get around this census. But
yeah, and more good shots of the planet here. The speeders, the RV, you get to see it really good. I think it's been kind of dim other times.
Yeah, it's a beautiful planet.
This one, seeing all the way back and seeing how big these fields are. I mean, they could have shot this in Nebraska or something, it looks like. Yeah, absolutely. So we cut back to Chandrilla, and Luthen is still concerned because Clea tells him they still haven't heard anything. We see Skulden approach Perrin, and they're talking about the future marriage. And Skulden, at point blank, is like, my son is not up to the task of handling Lita.
He is just, she's just going to dominate him in the relationship, and that he's weak, basically, is what Skulden's saying about his own son. And then we see Luthen working Lita's fiance, Skulden's son, for information because he serves in the Imperial Navy, which is super. It was a really good scene. It's like you were talking about earlier. Luthen's always playing the game, running machinations, getting any information he can. Well, even playing this role, the kid goes, yeah, we just left so-and-so base and are headed to this place. And Luthen goes, really? Why did they do that? And it's like, totally innocuous.
Super eager, yeah.
Yeah, but he's super eager. His eyes are like lit up, and he's trying to glean everything he can. It was cool. It was really cool. And we see Clea runs into Vel at the bar, and they discuss, why they're there. Basically, they're just, oh, we're here because we brought a gift, yada, yada. And then Tay and Mon run into each other. And Tay accuses Mon Mothma of having avoided him. We get deeper into this conversation that Tay is worried about his personal finances because he's apparently had business go south. We learn later why that is, but we don't know yet why he's had some bad investments. And then we learn that his wife has left him. Just like, cherry on top. His life is, I don't want to say collapsing. I think he's still a very wealthy Chandrillan, but he is not in a good spot right now in any way. Exactly. And the walls are closing in, and he doesn't feel like the walls are closing in on anybody else. I mean, he sees this extravagant party thrown by Mon Mothma, and he feels like he's the only one who's gotten a bad shake out of this deal. Because he says he wants to discuss the charity, and Mon Mothma is immediately concerned. She's like, oh, we've been discovered. And Tay says it's not that kind of problem, but it's a personal problem. It's very obvious that Tay is bringing something that's personally happened to him into this. But before they can get deeper into that, we learn that Lita has run off from the wedding night, and Mon has to go perform mothering duties. She's got her responsibility to Lita. Lita's crying because her betrothed won't hold her hand, and she calls him childish. I was just a little confused by this. I was like, what? Like, the guy, he won't hold her hand? Yeah, that's kind of weird. But anyways, I don't know. Given some other topics they cover in the third episode, I would think they would use something a little more adult than hold their hand, but whatever. So we go back to the rebels on the jungle planet, and they are still arguing. And I gotta say, this is the weakest part of the episode and the arc for me. Is it gets kind of boring listening to these people just bicker and argue over and over, and I know the point that they're trying to drive with this. There's two sides in this argument. It's about a power struggle and a control struggle, and it's supposed to represent the varying cells in the rebellion and their unwillingness to work together and their unwillingness to find leadership that we see even happening in Rogue One, where they are all at odds and they're like, we're going to dissolve this rebellion. It's over. The Death Star exists. And it's just like, I get the point. I know why they're doing it. I feel like it could have been done in a little bit less annoying way because they keep cutting to 1.5 minute scenes. We get a tiny bit of information and a bunch of yelling and name calling. And it's just, I don't know. I got tired of it after a while.
Yeah, especially when you get to the next episode. It's just, because the same thing happens. It's bouncing back and forth. And, well, we'll get into that, I guess. But I just have to echo what you said. I'm kind of glad it culminates here because it felt like it took a long time for the story to advance.
No, I agree, and I feel like the whole second episode, it's just a lot of the same thing. Like it's a standoff in multiple ways, and that's just, we just keep getting left with the standoff. There's not advancement until the very end, which this is the last scene of this episode, where the two sides are arguing about who's in charge, and they just start blasting. In Danny DeVito style, they just started blasting. They kill like 3 people, and then the two groups immediately run 2 separate directions. One group runs to the TIE Fighter, the only working ship, and then the other group drags Cassian away to hide in the busted down ship. And so now there's an impasse. They just shot each other's friends. They just shot each other. There's nothing that they're going to be able to do to get off the planet now without a compromise, and they're not going to compromise. One side has the only guy who can fly the ship. The other side has the ship. And that's where it leaves us, is this like firefight and them running away.
That's why it's so frustrating, because the answer was just so obvious, right? It's like, push this guy for half a second. They can take him to, they will take, Andor will take them to at least somebody to get some help. But
yeah, and whatever. I mean, just hold a gun to Cassian the whole time. I mean, he's going to be in the cockpit, but that was the problem we get at the very beginning. They're like, well, then who goes first? Because they're worried they're going to get abandoned and left there. Is the problem, is that the ship can only hold a few people, and they're like, well, who's going to go?
They're already abandoned and left there. If some people got to go, we don't need to go down that path.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's like before this ship landed, they had no chance of living. They were screwed. Now that this ship is here, there is a chance. What's that? Say that again.
If they could last 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So that's the end of that episode, like I said, but 3 episodes released, and so we're going to cover all 3 in this podcast. And the next episode is called Sagrona Tima. This is the 2nd episode. I really liked this episode. I liked all the episodes. I mean, I loved it again. This one may be the dragonest of the episodes. Like, there's a lot of stagnation in this episode. It feels a little bit like a filler episode in an anime. Not that stuff doesn't happen, but for some of the plot lines, really nothing does happen. And so that's a little frustrating.
Wars. It's the Clone Wars of the stuff.
Yeah.
This is where all the talking happens. You know, there's some cool things, like it. We'll get to it, but not as cool as the first episode, right? With the TIE fighter battle and the escape, you know, we know what happens in the 3rd episode, so there's some cool stuff in there. It's booking it really well, but the second act just it's a vegetable course. It's not a meat course.
Yes. Yeah. It is. So we open with the rebels, and both groups have sent someone to search the middle where the firefight started. And they're like crawling around. They're looking for bodies. Well, both people who are sent to look find like a little piece of a person and then take it back to their groups. And they're like, all I found was a foot. All I found were goggles. And then the other side thinks they took the bodies. But that's not the case. And we as the audience can infer, oh, that's not the case.
Yeah. It was the beasts.
Yeah, exactly. And it's pouring rain, and they're still just bickering and arguing. Well, the group that Cassian is with, he interrupts them, and he's like, hey, it's not going to rain forever. Aren't you guys dying of thirst? Maybe you should go collect some rainwater. Which is just, yeah. I mean, it highlights the level of rebel and survivalist and soldier that Cassian is, and the level that these guys are not. That, again, they have no experience. They are totally out of their depth here. They just really have no idea what's going on. Makes you wonder how they survived this long. Well, they must have had a good leader. That Maya Pei, Cassian does say that with some urgency. He's like, you are the Maya Pei brigade? So she must have really whipped those people into shape.
Yeah, and like being a mom to him almost.
Yeah, probably so.
And then, I mean, you just being how incompetent they are, how good of a leader was she if they couldn't take care of themselves while she was gone? That's strange. So whatever.
Yeah,
maybe that's for a comic book.
Yeah, maybe so. So then we cut back to Coruscant, and Leo approaches Deirdre and tells her to accept the Gorman Project. Deirdre's like, I don't want to accept the Gorman Project. My place is with Axis. And Leo, point blank, it's like, what are you talking about? You've been looking for this guy for 2 years. You have nothing to show for it. It's a waste of time. We should have fired your ass already. And now you got this opportunity dropped in your lap, which is basically true. I mean, Ferrix is Deirdre's bungle. Like, Ferrix was not successful by any means. There was a riot. They didn't find Luthen. They didn't get Cassian. All of this stuff happened. But Deirdre was able to spin it into... The real win was the Imperial Security Bureau was not looking at any of these events as connected, and then Deirdre was able to point out and say they are connected. So that's what lets her keep her job and make something out of the Axis program. But Ferrix is, I mean, it's a loss for the Empire on any way you slice it. And so
right.
seeing her defend that program, Leo's like, just take this excuse and run and succeed. He's like, I know you'll succeed. You're going to take this Gorman thing and win and be my boss. And so it's a cool scene. I like this Leo character. He's not in it a lot, but as far as Imperials go, he's got like a great head on his shoulders. He knows what his job is. He's very aware of what he's here to do.
That actor, he plays a lot of the same characters in a lot of stuff he's in. He played the same character, not literally, but, kind of like a typecast type thing that, the background character who's just turning the evil cogs, if you will. He was in Game of Thrones as one of Cersei's little henchman guys.
I got
He does a really good job.
Yeah, he does do a good job. So Leo continues and says, this project is so secret that you're going to have to pretend to take a demotion. You're going to have to act like that, yada, yada. But you're going to have this privileged spot next to Krennic. Like, you're only going to have to answer to Krennic. And he's so occupied with the energy project that he's not going to care at all what you do. It's basically you no longer have a boss. All you have to do is run your own program and make sure that you get that Calcite off of Gorman. And so it's a little bit of a wake-up call for Deirdre. She's like, oh, yeah, that's true. So back to Chandrila, we see Luthen guiding his gift into the hall for the wedding. It's under a tarp. We don't know what it is. Clea is teasing him and also just kind of accosting him, like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we spending 3 days on this luxury planet while, we're sitting on our hands here? We're just going to sit around all day. And then Clea lets him know that Mina Rao has shut down for Imperial inspection. No communications in or out. And that it's obvious that Cassian's not the one who sent the message, because they're like, well, what kind of inspection? And she's like, I wish that we knew. And so it's not enough information. And it's really vague and not a good spot to put them in, because they can think all manner of things. Because they could be compromised if the Ferric Sponge gets captured. Not anybody but Cassian, but they don't even know if Cassian's there or not. And so they trust Cassian, but Cassian gets captured, cracks under some torture pressure. This whole thing's over. This whole house of cards comes tumbling down.
Yeah, big risk here.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
The Ferric folks.
Absolutely. And that's why they're having such anxiety. Because you'd think, like, why do they really care about Brasso and Bix and those people other than just a general human empathy thing? And they don't really. I mean, it's just the general human empathy. It's much more about, we could totally be compromised. This could all be over if Cassian gets in any kind of trouble. So then Clea says she's going back to Coruscant because she needs to use some serious comms. She's like, I'm tired of waiting. We don't have the tools here. I'm going to leave. I'm not even needed here. And so he just tells her he can't go with her, so she's got to get a ride. She says she finds a ride, and we never, ever learn who it is. And I thought it was Vel for a minute, but Vel's on planet pretty soon after this. I think in the same day she's still on planet. And so I don't know who Clea's ride was. That was kind of just like an odd thing to say. To be like, I found a ride, and then never explain who it is. So Mon arrives. Perrin was watching Luthen and Clea talk, but for a second, the way he's standing and watching them, I was like, oh man, is Perrin catching on? And then I was like, I don't really think so. I think that was just a setup for Mon Mothma to walk in and start speaking with him. And then Perrin asks if she's heard about the gift, and it's called a Shandy Merle. We don't know what that means yet, so we just learned that, Mon Mothma knows what it is. It's a Shandy Merle. And they're like, oh, that's more expensive than this house. Well, this house is like, I mean, I've never been in a building that nice. This house is an insane mansion. Yeah, it's a castle. Yeah. And so it's, I mean, for that thing, whatever's under that rug to be worth more than this house, it's got to be something pretty amazing. And it is. It's pretty cool. I really like the reveal here in a little while. The lore reveal. But so Mon's still speaking with Perrin, and Perrin accuses her of cheating on him with Tay. She's like, your boyfriend, Tay, yada, yada. And Mon Mothma's like, this again? Like, she's just got, I mean, Perrin is just such a, like, petulant guy. He's just a kid. I mean, he's just got all the money he could want, and so he just gets to do whatever he wants. But Perrin kind of spills some gossip about Tay and says that Tay had to be taken home last night. And then he takes a swipe at him, saying he's always weak and he doesn't know how to pace himself. And it actually says, or in Perrin says, Pace yourself or pay the consequences. And that's some big foreshadowing for what's going to happen to Tay in these next 2 episodes, or in the last episode, or in the 3rd episode, really. It's some good foreshadowing. I mean, Perrin really pays off with a lot of foreshadowing lines. He did in season 1, and I think he's going to this season, where he's just like this oracle. Like, he's just spitting out this like drunken advice. He's like the drunken wise man, basically.
Yeah.
So back to Mina Rao. The farmer Kellen, who the Ferrex gang is working for, comes and tells Brasso what he knows about the inspections, that this hasn't happened in a decade. Everyone's upset about it. They're at the 500 block right now, which is just a section of the planet, and that they're going to keep moving along, and they're going to check not literally everybody, but there's just no way to tell. It's completely random who they're going to check. And so they start to scheme and to lie, and kind of figure out what they're going to do and say. And the first thing they say is, well, don't say you're from Ferrex. Like, that's going to sink this immediately. Like, not even if you have any involvement with Ferrex whatsoever, they're going to arrest you. And also, they say, well, can we try to stay ahead of them? But then Kellen says all the arrests are people who ran. Like, no one's getting arrested except unless you run. So don't do that.
Yeah. All the obvious giant suspicion signs.
Right.
Is red flags immediately.
Right, absolutely. And so we go back to the rebels, and it's revealed that Cassian's group has food in their ship, and the other group doesn't have any food. And so Cassian's group's they're gonna outlast him as far as this point goes now, we think. And then Cassian continues to give him advice. He's like, you guys need to establish a perimeter. Like, again, just highlighting, like, they have no idea what they're doing, and Cassian is a consummate expert at being a rebel. But then we cue to the other rebels who have found a type of food. They're eating this, like, coconut melon that they're making sound terrible.
It's rotten.
Yeah, exactly. It's, like, supposed to be putrid, and everyone gags when the guy takes a bite of it. And so whatever it is, it's disgusting. It's not edible. It's like eating a crab apple. But it's funny that they have to deal with this. There's just a little bit of humor in this scene, and that these people are just so inept. Like you said, they're not going out to hunt one of those beasts or anything. But now we go somewhere we haven't seen yet, with a character we hadn't seen back yet. He wasn't in the first episode at all. And we go to the Bureau of Standards with Cyril. And so he's in there being his weirdo self, being super proud of him being such a butt licker. And he's telling some newbie how big of a hero he is, and how he's this big badass at the Bureau of Standards because he identified some cabal of purchasing agents who were stealing from the Empire, and just trying to
the hero accountant.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to instill passion into this guy for his menial desk job where you can literally see thousands of cubicles. Like, if you want to be depressed, work in this place, is what it looks like.
Yeah, that's great. I bet they take pills to not be depressed.
Yeah, they have
Here's
to.
Your pill ration today.
Yeah, they have to. And so we cut back to Mina Rao, and we see Wilman and Bela are laying together in a field. And Wilman promises he's going to come back if he leaves. And she's like, tell me where you're going. And he's like, I can't, yada, yada, but I'll be back. And then Imperial transports approach, full of troopers. This grain is so tall that people can pretty effectively hide in that. And I kind of wondered, why don't they just go out there and lay on the ground for a day? Like, it's not going to be comfortable, but the Imperials aren't walking through the fields. They're not just going to, like, if you're out in the middle of the field, laying down on the grass, nothing's going to happen to you. You're going to be bored for 24 hours, but they're not going to find you. But anyways, so go ahead.
One thing I thought was funny here, because I've seen this setting, I haven't seen fields quite this expansive, but we see farmland just all the time. And so I'm like, man, are these guys just going to be riding around in a pickup truck?
Right.
So we get to see the Star Wars version of a pickup truck. It's actually pretty cool.
Yes, yeah. So the Imperials get out of their transport. They enter Kellen's farm store, begin asking for food and stuff like that. And Brasso's in there, and he's trying to act all innocent and nonchalant. And he does. He effectively does. He's just acting like a regular guy. They're not there yet to start the census. They're like passing through, and they're going to come back. And so the lieutenant of the group approaches the grain storage where Bix is, and he begins flirting with her. And his flirting continues. It just keeps going on, and she's kind of like, obviously trying to be friendly and nice because this is an Imperial officer. I mean, she does not want to draw attention or upset the guy, but he just continues to flirt more aggressively, and then he asks Bix to go to dinner with him, and so she says her husband wouldn't approve and that he's off planet. I mean, referring to Cassian, but they're not married. She's just using that as the excuse. And go ahead.
This made me real anxious. Because this is a tale of old as time. It seems like the foreign invader coming in and being just gross to the local populace. It's weird.
Absolutely. I mean, a guy exercising his authority, and it's just something that can happen in day-to-day life. Like a police officer can do what this guy's doing. And I'm not saying cops are bad. It's a possibility that can happen. And anybody in any position of authority.
Walk around in this hyper-authoritarian uniform type thing. It's the anxiety would be off the charts if one of these guys showed up.
Right. Absolutely. And so she says her husband wouldn't approve, and then the lieutenant, I mean, this is so suggestive and threatening. I mean, he keeps giving off bad vibes, and there's a reason for that. But he tells her about the communications blockade. He's like, does your husband ever worry about you? Because he's not going to be able to get a hold of you for a few days while we're here. And it's suggestive in multiple ways, and it's gross, it's creepy, it makes your skin crawl that this guy's behaving this way. But then Brasso shows up. I mean, he just walks up, and he doesn't know what's going on, but he stops the conversation because the lieutenant's not going to be a creep in front of somebody else. And so it ends it here for now. But we head back to Chandrilla, and they're walking up this like pilgrimage hike, basically, that's part of the wedding. The Chandrillan wedding is a 3-day-long affair with all of these different rituals and customs. And so on the hike, Mon is speaking with her cousin Vel about the ceremony and about how Cinta left Vel. And we haven't seen Cinta yet. We just know that happens in the last arc of season 1, where she just like disappears without telling Vel anything.
I liked all the characters' hats. It's really cool.
Yeah, the dress on Chandrilla, all of it is really, really neat. Every outfit is pretty cool. So we go back to the rebels on the jungle planet, and the rebels with Cassian learn that the other rebels are rotating the TIE fighter like inches at a time so it can line up and shoot at the other group and kill them. And it's, they're like...
Gosh, this is such a wild premise. We're not going to sit there and finger bang buttons to figure out how to get this thing to move. No, we're going to yank it with raw power.
7 of us are going to nudge this inch by inch all day long just to spite the other people and kill them.
When one of these other people could pop out and pop us, like there's nobody doing Overwatch, there's nobody doing nothing.
I know.
We're all going to pull this thing. It's hilarious.
It is. It's super funny. And so the other group's like freaking out. They're trying to figure out how fast it is. And Cassian's just like, they're going to be close by midnight. Like, you need to figure this out. They are going to kill you. And then they're yelling at them. They're like, what's your plan? Kill the pilot? And the other group very clearly does not have a plan, because that is their plan, is kill the pilot and strand themselves there. So it's all pretty funny. We then go to Coruscant, and Cyril enters Deidre's apartment. And these two are clearly together. They're clearly living together now. They are boyfriend and girlfriend. But they are discussing canceling some plans. Cyril's like, I wish you had been delayed. Then we could have canceled. Let's pretend you're not here. And we don't know exactly what it is yet. But if you watch season 1, you should have a pretty good idea. And then it really pays off, honestly. For as far as like the character's behavior, it's a big payoff.
I like their apartment too.
Oh, it's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of spacious for Coruscant. Like you have to have a double income to live in one of these places.
Yeah.
And be high enough up in the ISB to get a good billet.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So Back on Chandrila, Mon approaches Tay, and they begin a conversation that Luthen's quietly stalking. Luthen has, like, super hearing, apparently, because he comments on this conversation more than once, happening across a busy room. Like, he's just got great ears.
I bet he can read lips, too. You know, somebody at his level of skill and ability is going to be able to do stuff that you're not even aware of.
You're right. He's probably reading their lips, because he's far away. But anyways, during their conversation, Tay's getting a little huffy with Mon about how she's been blowing him off. And Tay is concerned that everything has worked out for Mon Mothma. You know, she's gotten her debt covered. The money is not an issue anymore. There's no mystery there. No one's going to dig into her finances. The rebellion got this charity set up, and so they have a permanent pipeline for their money. And Davo, he got what he wanted, which was his son to marry Mon Mothma's daughter. And everything's worked out for everybody but little old Tay. He's throwing this pity party here. And we learned that his bad investments, had been compromised because of insurgent activity. And so because of the rebellion, Tay is now, I mean, not destitute, but the dude's way poorer than he was. And it's made out to seem like he's in some pretty bad financial straits right now.
Right.
And
I'm pretty sure in any of these situations like this, somebody's got to fall on the sword, and he's like staring down the barrel, if you will. He doesn't want to fall on it.
Right. Well, it's not his rebellion. He's doing a favor to his old friend Mon Mothma, but he's not invested in the rebellion or anything like that. The dude's had a comfortable life under the Empire, and he doesn't feel any sort of way about the situation. And so it's really, like you said, he doesn't want to fall on the sword because it's not his sword to fall on, as far as he's concerned. And so he's also, like we said, just went through a divorce. His wife left him, and it's not overt, but it's kind of implied that maybe that happened because of these bad investments. Like this, he lost all this money, and maybe she left him because of that. And so he's just, like you said, the walls are closing in for him. And to top it all off, he feels like Mon Mothma has been ducking him, and she's spending all this money on this opulent party. And he thought that his problems were obvious. He said, he was like, I didn't think I needed to say anything. Which that's the crux of just a lot of people's real world issues, is not, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and not thinking that people know what you're thinking or anything else. So
another thing I want to say right here is this is like a formal dress. You can see Mon's clothes change, and after that hike especially, and how they're able to come up with all of these, Chandrilan dress. We got the ways Americans dress, the way Muslims dress, the way these people dress, and just something totally different is just way cool.
Yep.
All this attention to detail is kind of why I'm such a big Star Wars fan.
Oh, it's super cool. It is awesome. And Cassidy, she actually commented on this outfit. She was like, that's the prettiest dress that Mon Mothma has worn in the entire show. So yeah, there's a very popular outfit, apparently. But you're totally right. The Chandrilan dress in general, they've got the colors down. It's like all these blues and bronzes, and it's just a really cool like color palette that they use for their society too. So Mon Mothma promises Tay, she's like, we'll meet about it next week. As soon as the wedding's over, we'll iron all this out. And that go ahead.
He's kind of a butthead to show up at doing this and doing this stuff, It's like, hey, my daughter's getting married here, man. You got to bring this stuff up? This is the party time. Let's talk about work later.
Right, exactly. But he's also implying just a little bit like he can't even wait a week. Like he's really, but a lot of that is, like Perrin said, he's been drinking a lot and his wife just left him. So there's a lot going on with Tay Kolma's emotional state that's making him act this way. So back to Mina Rao, we see the farmer Kellen sharing what he knows with Cassian's crew, and he tells them to be prepared to move if they have to. And that's really all the information we get out of that little scene, because we're back on Coruscant, where Clea enters Luthen's shop and sets up the listening room in the back. And she starts listening for contacts. And that's also just all the little bit we get there. And so I don't even want to call it a pacing issue. This is all very necessary for this show. But like this one scene with Clea, it's about a 30-second scene, no dialogue, she walks in, flips the sound stuff on. And so now, we know she's back on Coruscant. We know she's ready to listen. So later when she gets called, it makes sense why she's there. But it's just that there's a lot of stuff like that.
And there's it does a close-up. It shows her reached into like a secret panel and a pedestal. But at the same time, it's doing a close-up on a couple of artifacts. And one of them looks like, I'm not going to say it is or anything, but it's akin to one of Padme Amidala's headdresses. And then like Plo Koon's face mask type thing. It's so cool.
It is. It's awesome. And that's just, Luthen's shop is rife for Easter eggs. Having an antique shop in the Star Wars galaxy is like this great plot point. It's just such a cool setting.
Cool. The antique shop I'd ever want to go to.
Yeah. So on Chandrila, Mon and Luthen begin speaking about Tay's conversation, and Luthen is worried. And for good reason. He's not Tay's friend. Mon Mothma's Tay's friend. He's taken Mon Mothma's word on how this guy's going to act. And so Luthen's worried about the possibility of Tay going to Skulden. And, we don't know what that means exactly, but Skulden is not this, morally upright individual. We know that he's kind of a gangster. And so there's no reason to think that he wouldn't just sell him out for some cash. And so Luthen gets kind of eerie, and he speaks in a threatening manner about Tay. And Mon gets super defensive. This really upsets Mon Mothma. Because, Tay's her lifelong childhood friend. Luthen does not care about that. Luthen does not care that they are these lifelong good buddies or anything like that.
He's very singularly minded.
Yes. And when that was clear from his daylight speech back in season 1 that the only thing Luthen cares about is the rebellion. I mean, that was, you're going to sacrifice all these rebels? Yeah, absolutely. Like, this is it. This is my sunrise. So Mon has to leave the Luthen conversation because Perrin begins giving a speech. And this is a good Perrin moment. He gives this speech about love and passion and how a relationship has its ups and downs, and that it's going to be, you're going to be anxious and bad things are going to happen, but that you need to find the joy, you need to find pleasure, yada yada. And so it's a good speech. It's it's good wedding speech, good dad speech. It's well put together. Perrin is, he's definitely a little more charming in this season so far than he was in the first one. But he's also in his element. He's in a party. We see him in his element here.
And this is one of the first, we've seen just basically set designs as what the Chandrilan culture is. And now we're getting this, I'm probably going to say it wrong, Sargano Tima. The language, like the greeting language and the well-wishing language that they're using, he starts using throughout this whole speech.
Yeah,
so it gives another facet of this Chandrilan culture that's just really cool.
They built up the Chandrilan culture so much in these 3 episodes, and exactly for what you're saying. I mean, in his speech, he goes, Sagrona, toasting to you, Sagrona Timo, toasting to your health, Sagrona Timo Salome, and then giving a piece of advice, and it's just this layered traditional speech. And this entire wedding is uber traditional. And so, one thing we haven't touched on is that Mon Mothma in season 1 and in this season is super uncomfortable with this tradition. She's like, why do you think I would approve of this tradition? And I'm still trying to figure out what the real rub with this tradition is. What's wrong with it? It's very traditional. It's got a bunch of ritual and traditions in it. But I mean, it seems like it's not arranged marriage. Lita was asked about this as consent-wise. They didn't just say, you're marrying this guy. They had a meeting in season 1. Davos Skulden says, it's just a meeting. And Lita is already leaning into this uber-traditional, uber-conservative aspect of Chandrilan society before that even starts. Later in the episode, during the wedding ceremony, I mean, there's a whole situation about asking her consent. And so I don't really understand what Mon Mothma's issue is with this tradition. I understand she might have reservations about who Lita is marrying, the son of a gangster crime lord, but I don't get why she has a problem with the tradition itself.
Yeah.
It's
strange.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's. I
don't have any insight.
Yeah, I don't know. I really hadn't figured it out. I need to turn to Twitter or something, or we need to have someone comment and tell me why this is, because I haven't figured it out. So, on the jungle planet, we go back, and the rebels issue a challenge to each other. They meet in the middle of no man's land, and they leave Cassian with a single guard. And then all the rebels drop their weapons at the same time, and they enter into some kind of like rock, paper, scissors game with partners. Like,
This is, this is so funny. This is what should have happened at the very beginning, and they've only figured it out after several people are dead.
Right.
They're starving themselves and almost dead themselves. The beasts are out to get them. It's so hilarious.
It is. It is. It's ridiculous. They're just like out there, and it's like a partner game, and it's, they're rock, paper, scissoring it out for multiple rounds. It makes no sense. Like, I don't even understand what's going on. But we're meant to think that they're doing rock, paper, scissors, basically. So there's a crack of thunder, and Cassian grabs a hidden blaster, kicks it open, grabs it, frees himself, and then immediately threatens to kill his guard. He binds him, ties him up, and then he goes and grabs a radio transmitter that was hidden on the ship. And he makes a break for it while the rebels are still playing their rock, paper, scissors game. And he cuts through the jungle and hears the beasts. And the sound of the beasts stops the game, and they're like, what? And then, boom, out of nowhere, this giant pig with a gaping maw, it's like a pig shark, comes and just devours two rebels out of nowhere completely.
Yeah, it's such another cool monster.
It is. It's another good
I was
monster.
thinking that the whole time, that in a lot of the stuff, I'm not to say that the monsters are overplayed, but they're really prominent, and it's cool that we can still have a monster in a more serious Star Wars that has it. It's a one and done thing. Here it does it's this background presence that everybody's scared of. You see it once, and it does what it's supposed to do, and then it's done. It fills its role perfectly in this.
Yeah,
better than I would have ever expected.
No, absolutely. I think so too. And it's on the screen for seconds. Doesn't even come back. It's really good. They do a really good job with it. So, because of the beast attack, Cassian makes it unnoticed to the ship. There's a guard on the ship, but he just shoots him right in the chest immediately, kills him. And then the guard who was guarding Cassian at the beginning comes running out all bounded. He's getting away, and then they start shooting at the TIE Avenger, and it's already gone. I mean, Cassian is up in the air. He doesn't like shoot these guys. He doesn't take the time to go and try to kill them. So good on Cassian for not killing these people that have bound you for 2 days. But he just takes off into space and effectively kills them. I mean, they're going to die. It may have been a mercy killing because they're all going to kill each other or they're going to starve to death, one of the two. And those are their only two options.
And right now the rebellion is just a tad bit too disjointed for him to send a message like, hey, there's some guys on Yavin 4 you need to go find.
Right. Exactly. And like you said,
and that was the reveal.
That's the reveal. Yeah. We've been calling it the Jungle Planet. No, you did it at the exact right moment. It reveals that it has been Yavin 4 this whole time. You see the Masasi temples in the background as Cassian's taken off. So that was cool.
And these guys didn't know that. That's another layer of incompetence. You would think there'd be a little bit more safety in one of these temples, but they're just going to sit there and hang out by this derelict ship.
Right.
Very strange.
Yeah, it is. So that's the end of that episode. That's the end of the second episode. And I think just through our conversation alone, it took us 55 minutes to talk about the first episode, and only took us 30 to talk about this episode. And so I think that's a little bit of an indication for this episode. Just didn't have as much meat on the bone as, like you said, it's a vegetable course.
Yep. Best way to put it.
So final episode for the opening for the premiere is Harvest. It's episode 3, and that's a cool name. It's a good name. It's Harvest on Mina Rao, but really it's just a lot of things are coming to roost here. A lot of things that have been percolating are boiling over, and so we get a gorgeous shot of the Avenger drifting dead in space, and Cassian's in there. He's trying to get the ship hot-wired, trying to get the radio to work, and then he finally does get the ship hot-wired, and it starts erratically doing barrel rolls out into the distance. And so, Cassian's just like, he's not in a good place right now. He's out of the fire into the frying pan with this ship right now. But
Yeah, and it's a shame too. It looked like he had it figured out, and then he's just stranded. That should suck.
oh, it'd be terrible. It'd be terrible. I mean, and Cassian is handling it way better than I would. But we cut to Mina Rao at this large dinner on the farm. All the farm workers are sharing it together. Kids and droids are running around playing, and it's this idyllic life that these people are living, and it's like, why is the big bad empire coming to mess with these people? They're just trying to live their lives. And so Farmer Kellen...
These events like this, these harvest dinners, I've never been to one. I've seen it on TV a bunch. I know it happens in real life. But, this is salt of the earth, or salt of the Mina Rao, right? Is that what you said the planet was?
Yeah.
And, because this is simple work. It's fulfilling work. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's like on a lower rung, literally or figuratively. But having these dinners like this, I wish I could sit there and be where these guys are.
Yeah, I do too.
It'd be so fulfilling.
And like you said, it's another instance of them using something that we've all seen in TV and movies and putting it into Star Wars. So we're very familiar. Like, this immediately evokes something for us. We understand this farmhouse dinner kind of style, where it's this community, it's this small group of people who are all working towards the same goal. They're a big extended family, and so so the farmer Kellen, he shows up, and he gets to Brasso to inform him that the Empire is coming there next, that they're coming tomorrow, that they've got to get out of town tonight, and he gives Brasso a foraged work permit in the 800 block, and he encourages him to leave at night and says, you can come back when the Imperials are done. And then Kellen asks Brasso if he knows Luthen. He doesn't say Luthen. He says Cassian's big boss. But he asks if he knows Luthen. And then Kellen's like, you need to tell him what's going on here. And Brasso's like, this is happening everywhere. And what's happening on Mina Rao is like nothing. The Empire is exercising a census. Now understand that the lieutenant's going around being a creep. Stormtroopers are probably going around harassing people. But we've seen prison planets and riots and the stuff that happens in the Bad Batch. What's going on Mina Rao right now is nothing, brother, compared to what's going on in the rest of the galaxy.
For sure.
They're just, they're doing a census. This is like the Roman Legion coming in, kicking down a stall door. And that's not a good thing, but there's a lot worse things happening in Carthage.
Well, and these guys are used to being left alone. Like I said, this is simple work. As far as the Empire is concerned, as long as they're meeting their quotas and not killing people, it's probably not that bad of a deal.
Yeah.
Like this one scene, this girl has a puppet, ATST. So there's like, it's just a doll to that kid. I don't want to say reverence per se, but not, it's just like a fact of life that you have to deal with.
Yeah, it's like a toy soldier.
The government to them is just this far off thing, and then when they show up, they're there and they leave.
Yep. So. Yep. Yeah. Wasn't that little marionette cool? It was super neat to see that little girl playing with that. So we go back to Chandrila, and Lita approaches Mon Mothma in her wedding gown. And I've got to say that this scene right here is probably the scene that I thought about the most in between my viewings and after, and the one that I had been that stuck in my mind the most of any scene. And so Lita approaches Mon Mothma in her wedding gown, and then Mon Mothma tells a story about how Mon's mother was drunk at her wedding. Again, I don't know what's so bad about this wedding ceremony that is upsetting these people. Like, I get it. I get it kind of, because Mon Mothma married Perrin, and he sucks. And Lita's going to marry Davos Skolden's son, who probably sucks. But that's it. Like, there's nothing wrong with the wedding. I didn't see anything that I was like, wow, that's so awful. The Chandrilans are living in the past with this. It's just a wedding. It's just whatever their culture is. But anyway, Mon Mothma's mom was drunk at her wedding. And Mon Mothma is upset about it. She's like, I wish my mom wasn't drunk so she could tell me what I'm going to tell you. And Mon Mothma tells Lita that if she wants to run, that's okay. That it'd be seen as a sign of bravery, abandoning her life, abandoning her traditions, abandoning this marriage and this wedding, that it would be all right, that it would work out in the end. And the reason I thought about this so much is because on the surface, it kind of sounds like Mon is trying to justify, I could leave the rebellion right now and it'd all work. But that's not what she's saying. What Mon Mothma's really doing is she is still speaking to herself, but she is convincing herself that it's time to throw off her senatorial role, throw off her aristocratic role, and begin fighting for the rebellion openly. Like, come out, make it public, because it honestly makes things simpler. She's got to run and hide, she's got to be away, but she's not going to have to deal with stuff like Tay, or being worried that Luthen being on the planet means they're all going to die, or, just that the Empire's going to knock their door down at any moment. Like, she doesn't have to be living in as much fear. When you go out into the open like that with the rebellion, it does take a weight of, like, secrecy off your shoulders, basically.
Yeah, very good points. Man, I don't know if I even thought of that.
Well, I was trying to understand, because the first layer is obviously Mon Mothma does not like this wedding ceremony, but we know her and Lita have a pretty tumultuous relationship, and so I think it was a lot more of Mon Mothma speaking to herself.
Yeah, very good.
But then Lita, she goes, "I wish you were drunk." Oof, that was so tough. That was. I mean, it is Lita's wedding. You really shouldn't be talking her out of her if this is what she wants to do, and has not really indicated she doesn't want to do it, except for the one day she was crying on the floor. And so she may be in her right to say that, but it upsets Mon greatly. Mon is crying and is, she is trying to fix herself before the ceremony. It's a tough scene. It's sad. It's sad to see that go on. But then the wedding begins, and it begins with a bunch of rituals, and it's just like, I don't know. I mean, it's a wedding on another planet. It's an alien wedding. It's, it has some similarities to a real world wedding. It's got the father handing over the bride. It's got the white wedding dress, but then it's got the stick on the ground that you have to walk over, and the circle that you dance
the
in.
Of the braid.
Yeah,
all kinds of stuff.
Exactly. So it's it's just there's nothing of huge note from the wedding ceremony other than they invented a cool little space wedding. But yeah, like it ends with I have this guy's written. I definitely, so in my notes it says Steven, and I know his name is not Steven. That's not a Star Wars enough name. But Skulden's son cuts off Lita's Padawan braid, like you said, with a knife that Perrin gives him. And so, symbolizing the father handing the daughter to that son. And so we then go back to Coruscant. The wedding's done. We head back to Coruscant, and we see another relationship. We see Dedra and Cyril setting their house for a dinner party, listening to some real smooth jazz. This is not the modal nodes. I mean, they are, but it is smooth jazz. It goes on for like a minute and a half, and I'm just bobbing my head in that scene. It was really good. Andor has some banging tracks.
Music was over the top in this episode.
It was.
I liked it a lot.
It was. There's a lot of really good music. There's a lot of really, really good music. So, in this scene, they're getting ready for the dinner party. Dedra's trying on different outfits, and we see her smile for the first time, which is wild. It's pretty crazy. I was like, whoa, when I first saw it, and then my wife goes, wow, that's the first time we've seen her do that. And so that was funny. But
they look all somber, like they're dreading what's about to happen. I guess I would be too.
Yeah, they are dreading what's about to happen, and yeah, I would too. Deidre's hands are shaking nervously. And so the doorbell rings, and Cyril goes and answers it and gets his mom, who's just despicable. I mean, it is Palpatine, a hair's width, and then this lady on the evilest people in the Star Wars galaxy. Vader is leagues below this lady.
That's hilarious.
She comes in and just immediately is acting her terrible self. I mean, she's just like this mother-in-law from hell immediately.
You look nothing like what I expected. You didn't even shake her hand, judges the place.
Yeah, it's terrible. Awful. She keeps insinuating that Dedra's keeping Cyril away from her. I mean, it's just every bad trope you can think about with a mother-in-law wrapped up into this lady.
Yeah, and they're both go-getters. They barely see each other.
Yeah, they're tenacious people. You should be proud of both of them. But so we then cut to Luthen's shop still on Coruscant, where the comm beeps and Clea answers to Cassian. Speaking in code, Clea learns that Cassian's lost in space and he doesn't know where to go, and he's pissed off that he got sent to a ship that he was not trained on how to fly. And so, in the conversation, Clea lets slip that Mina Rao has been compromised with Imperials. Cassian's like, well, what does that mean? And Clea's like, I don't know. Cassian's like, what does that mean? And I don't know. And she's like, don't do anything rash. And he immediately hangs up, and a hyperspace jumps to Mina Rao.
And can you blame him?
No, not at all.
Man.
Yeah, I mean, he cares about just his family. He cares just about those people on Ferrix. But they're not around in Rogue One, so I think we know what happens. I've got something we'll talk about in Always in Motion that I think's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But we then cut back to the dinner party. We learn Cyril's father abandoned he and his mother. I wonder why. But that Cyril was raised by a single mother and by Uncle Harlow, God bless his soul. But she continues to embarrass Cyril and berates him in front of Deidre. And then we learn that Deidre was raised in a kinder block, that her parents were criminals, and so she was raised by the state. So absolutely no wonder she is the way she is. The way
That's got to be terrible.
Her personal demeanor, the fact that she works at the ISB, like all of that just screams, I was raised by the Empire.
Well, and gosh, kids don't have a choice. You could end up being like Han Solo or Han and raised by gangsters and criminals.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You kind of don't get a choice when you're a kid like that. And so maybe let's see, be raised by gangsters or criminals, or be, brainwashed and conditioned to work to be the perfect Imperial servant. Ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'd choose. God.
I know. Yeah, they're both pretty hellacious. That's a good Han comparison for sure, because we don't see a lot of that.
It's not like your kid's going to have a perspective on that. You're going to take whoever's going to put food on your plate.
Right. I mean, even Luke didn't have an option. I mean, he didn't. Luke had a good life as far as being raised goes. But he was boring. He hated living on Tatooine, and he wanted to go off and adventure, and he didn't get a choice. He had to be a moisture farmer. He was born into this moisture farming family.
All he had to do was shoot Womp Ranch. No PlayStation 5, no
right.
Marvel Rivals, nothing
exactly.
like that.
Yeah, I pity that. So, on Chandrilla, the newly wedded couple enters the room, but then we go back to Mina Rao. And that's another one of those scenes where it's just like nothing really happens. It's just 30 seconds of clips. But back on Mina Rao, Brasso is packing up in a hurry. They're getting ready to leave because the Empire's showing up early.
And these guys are stacked, man. They got enough guns.
Yes, yeah.
I'm envious.
They are. Oh, yeah. They've got all kinds of
weapons.
weapons.
Firepower these guys got.
Yeah, it's wild. It's crazy what they're doing. Yeah, that is the part. It's like, oh, we're here for a census, rolling tanks down the road.
It's like it's not an RV. It's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles van that they have with all the guns and add-ons and like Batmobile or Mr. Gadget RV or something like that.
Yes, yeah, it's wild. So then we go back to the dinner party, and it's this scene is crazy. We open up to Edie taking her spoon and just stabbing her dessert and making it into this like pile of mush. It is the most obnoxious thing. She's just massacring it. I laughed so hard when I saw this scene. And then she just launches into how Cyril makes poor decisions and he shouldn't have left Coruscant and he went to go play policeman on Morlana. And it's just absolutely no idea why this guy acts the way that he does. Like, growing up with a mother like this, Cyril turned out the best he possibly could have. It's a good thing he's not just Jeffrey Dahmer of Coruscant, basically. And so
Tony Soprano's mom incarnate.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so Cyril excuses himself from the dinner because this is just too much for him. And then Deidre gets deathly serious. She scolds Edie for her behavior and says that Uncle Harlow is a criminal and she needs to quit bringing the guy up. And Edie tries to talk back for a second, and then Deidre just continues. She says, you're not going to be in our lives unless you stop causing us both anxiety. I will make sure that Cyril calls you and we will be a part of your lives unless you continue to act this way, yada, yada. Just standing up for her man. She's, she loves Cyril very clearly. And so that's what she's doing. And Edie finally agrees, she's, and then she starts laughing with Deirdre, and Cyril's so surprised he comes running back into the room. They probably think something's wrong. So yeah, it was an interesting scene, but we see that Edie's going to get off of Cyril's back. I'm really curious where his plot can go from here in the rest of the show. What does he do? Unless maybe he latches on to what Deirdre is doing. He's kind of follows her in some way. But for now, it seems like his stuff's kind of resolved, basically. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here.
Yeah, I really love this interaction between Deirdre and Edie. It's one of those things, every time I've ever been in a situation like that, my brain just shuts down. And so an hour or two after a conversation, it's oh, I should have said this. This would have been the best comeback. And, usually these are mostly fictional situations, but the Edie thing, there are people like that who exist. I think this is a caricature in a lot of senses, but also brushes up on some real stuff. There's tons of stories about bad mother-in-laws and this and that. So this is the fantasy speech that the wife wants to give to that controlling mother-in-law.
Yes.
It's really cool to see in action.
Yeah, it is. It is cool to see. And so we...
and I'm sorry. Let me finish that thought. It popped in my head. And so this is that turning point for the Deirdre character, right? She was nervous at the start of this. This was something that they've probably been gaming out for a really long time. And, this is going to be a building block into her, how she's going to handle the Gorman situation, which we already knew she was a very powerful character to start with her ability to connect the dots and all that stuff, like both of these characters can. But, this is if she can beat the evil mother-in-law, the Gorman, that sounds silly to say out loud, but, people get in their heads about this stuff, right? This is who her almost husband or fiance or could be one of those things soon. And, this is the first hurdle.
Yes.
To getting to where she wants to be as this penultimate or ultimate ISB officer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is this stepping stone that she needed to get over, certainly, and kind of proving herself as the dominant figure in every situation.
Proving herself to herself.
Yeah, yeah. So on Chandrila, Skulldon reveals the Shandy Merle, and we learn, this is some super cool history, that it is an ancient artifact that was stolen. It's one of 12. It was stolen by the Rakatan invaders 25,000 years ago from Chandrila.
Yeah, wasn't this such a cool little Easter egg here, Rakatan invaders?
It was. Awesome. It was crazy that second time we've had them mentioned, and it was in Andor. But yeah, it's so cool. It was this neat little tidbit. And Tay is visibly annoyed at the gift because of the value. I mean, it's priceless. They're like, this is worth more than the house. This thing is literally priceless. There's no way to put any kind of number on it.
It'd be like if you were gifted that diamond that the old lady dropped off the boat at the end of the Titanic movie.
Yes.
It'd be like, are you serious right now?
Right.
You went down there and found this thing and you're giving it to me as a gift. I have to triple my security to exist with this thing. I can't believe you've done this.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Right. Yeah, because you can't sell it. It's like your net worth didn't improve at all. You just have this thing that is priceless now. Yeah. And so Tay is visibly annoyed at the value of the gift, and he's getting super drunk by now. We see that because Luthen's having a conversation with this Erskine guy, and Tay doesn't shoulder check him. He walks through him he's not even there. I mean, I thought maybe a little overacted because the dude slams into him bare chest, boom, and has no reason to. I get they were trying to demonstrate he was drunk. He's not blind. He's directly in front of this guy. But anyways, Tay goes to talk to Mon Mothma and is standing there, and he's looking at Davos Skulldon, and he's just super impressed. He's like, man, we should all be more like Davos Skulldon. Mon Mothma's like, what? And he's like, yeah, he just takes what he wants and says what he needs, and he's so bold. And then he's like, man, I wish this guy was my friend because Tay wants his money. And he's like, Skulden could be really helpful to me right now. And this is just Mon Mothma is petrified. She's just like, he cannot go to Skulden. And Mon Mothma is scared on 2 levels. One, she doesn't want Tay to go to Skulden and blackmail her or anything like that and let the cat out of the bag about why she needed the money. But she also doesn't want Luthen to kill Tay, like Luthen is totally going to do. And so Tay is about to leave the party, and then he's going to leave the party, and he almost says something to Mon Mothma, and then he decides not to at the last minute. And what happens next to Tay, Mon Mothma is going to be wondering what he was going to say for the rest of her life. She's not going to get closure on that. I don't think we as the audience are going to get closure on that.
Yeah.
But we're back to Mina Rao for now, where Brasso is leaving B2. He's leaving him on Mina Rao, and B2's pissed, obviously. B2 Emo's like, what, why are you leaving me? And so while they're talking, a ship flies overhead, and Brasso's like, we gotta get out of here. But Willman is gone. He's off talking to Bela, saying his goodbyes, but before he can leave, the Imperials roll up in their tanks with their armored cars and tanks and guns. And they drop off at the farm store. The lieutenant drops his men off at the farm store, and he leaves. He goes down the road with just one driver. And Brasso leaves their RV to go find Willman. So Bix is left alone at the RV. But back on Chandrilla, go ahead.
All the elements of a disaster go.
Yeah, it's
the guy that. Oh, it's awful.
It's every wrong thing. It's everything going wrong at once. But back on Chandrilla, Luthen confronts Mon about that conversation with Tay, and Mon spills the beans about Tay speaking with Skulden, and Luthen's like, yeah, I've got eyes. He's been talking to him all weekend. And then Luthen basically in a discreet way is like, we got to kill Tay. And Mon realizes this, and she is terrified. She's just like, no, we can't do that. And Luthen is just like, yep, got to do it. I mean, there's no other answer. And he's like, you're lucky that you have. Mon Mothma's like, no. And Luthen's just like, you're lucky you have the luxury to pretend like you don't know what I'm talking about. Like, you can sit here and act like you don't know because your position and your wealth and all of this, but Luthen knows what has to be done. He's more hands-on for this rebellion than Mon Mothma is right now. And so Mon realizes this, walks away, but she's terrified. She's just so scared because she can't even stop Luthen. She knows she can't stop Luthen.
Yeah, and all these people are buttheads for thrusting this on her on this wedding event. But
yes,
I don't know. The cause stops for nothing.
Yep,
so.
You're right. And so then Neamos Rock starts playing, and it's super good. It's a great soundtrack. And so it's this really celebratory, like EDM rave music playing at this wedding.
Yeah.
And
I'm adding it to my playlist for sure.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. And so they do a really good job of interspersing this celebratory wedding with the deep foreboding music and all of the scenes cutting between Chandrilla and Mina Rao. So there's a lot of moments where they just cut to the wedding, but it's just the music and people dancing for a minute, and then more stuff happens on Mina Rao.
And more drinking and all this other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're not going to say every time that happens because there's a lot of points where there's nothing but the rave and the drinking, but it continues to juxtapose these scenes of what's happening to Mon Mothma, what's happening to Chandrilla, Mon Mothma having to put on this act that she's had to put on for so long, and then like real-world actual rebellion consequences happening to Cassian and his family. And so Cassian enters space above Mina Rao just as soon as the lieutenant arrives to find Bix at the RV. And he begins to question why they're packing, and it's just the music is really foreboding. It's like a deep bass version of the Neamos Rock, and we then see Brasso is trying to sneak through the grass to get Willman, but a stormtrooper intercepts him, and just everything is going wrong. While everything's going wrong on Mina Rao, we cut back to the wedding, and Mon Mothma is just taking shots to ease her conscience because she's just terrible. There's nothing she can do. It's all she can do is get drunk. And so
Yeah, very cool scene too.
it is. It's really good. It's just a really good juxtaposition. So we go.
There's also a storm in the background on Mineral, it looks like.
Yeah.
So like lots of metaphorical stuff going on too.
Yeah. It looks a lot like Twister. It's got the grain fields like Oklahoma, and it's got the dark clouds and everything else. So the lieutenant begins to get closer to Bix and starts to be sexually suggestive with her, like asking her for a massage and things like that. And then we cut back to the farm store, and Kellen has turned them in. Brasso rushes him. He wants to kick his ass, but he's restrained by stormtroopers.
I didn't think he turned him in. I thought it was a feign to save Kellen from any Inquisition.
Oh yeah, that's probably true.
Because you can tell, like he does. Brasso does an intense look, and Kellen looks stunned right there. And so that was I said it already.
Yeah, okay.
It was
you're right. All right, you're right. I missed that, but I think now that I'm thinking about it, you're right, because they make a little bit of a face right there. Kellen does there at the end, and it's like a grateful face, which is good for Brasso. I mean, come on, like there's no reason to throw that guy under the bus too.
Well, and think of who Brasso and his coterie is. These guys, you got Andor, and all these guys are tip of the top at what they do, and so. Not that they've been in situations like this before, but they've been something close. This is spycraft right here, because that guy gave him the forged badge, kept him informed the whole time. I mean, this is the tip of the top right here when it comes to drama and intrigue and spycraft shows. It's awesome.
Absolutely, it totally is. It really, really is. So Brasso is captured by the stormtroopers. And we cut back to the officer getting closer to Bix, and he tries to sexually assault her. And Bix punches him in the face. She punches him in the nose. And he's got kind of this.
The last person you'd want to do something like that to is the person is Bix and these people who are secret rebels and all this other stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I felt so, I was real anxious about what was going to happen, and. Not that I don't want to say I feel sorry for the guy in a sense that because he got what was coming to him, right? But it's like, how stupid is this guy really? Because he's this stupid trope because he's done this before. That's their shtick. They go to these planets and he has their way with people.
Right. This is
it's
not
awful and it's gross.
He's a serial rapist. He's a serial rapist, and so exactly.
And
like he got what's coming to him.
The wrong person, and he gets what's coming to him. So I don't want to say I feel sorry for him in any way. But we know what's going to happen. It's like, dude, you bit off way more than you can chew here, and I can't wait to see it.
Right. Yeah, I don't feel sorry for him at all. He totally takes what's coming to him. And so Bix and they begin to fight though, and I mean it's still a grown man versus a woman, and so he grabs Bix and like throws her crazy hard against a wall. And so he starts dragging her by her feet towards the bed. But she like kicks free and then immediately bashes his head in with a tool. And he just starts screaming, obviously. And it's like he got hit in the head with a wrench. And his driver starts to get suspicious. So he gets out of the speeder and starts to walk towards the RV. And the officer, the lieutenant, starts to draw his blaster, but he's obviously too stunned to be able to do that. So he just like bum rushes at Bix, and she bashes him in the head again.
Damaged.
Yeah, he totally is.
Brain damaged, if you ask me.
Yeah, he's swaying around. He can't. His brains are scrambled, and so he rushes at her again, and she bashes him in the head again, and he stumbles out of the RV and dies. And so
deservedly so.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the Imperials begin to head for the RV because the driver comes in and is like, "We got a problem here." And the driver slowly approaches the house. And
one thing, I've seen some discussion online. I didn't want to read into it because it's stupid, but people were upset this scene was in Star Wars at all. And my only response is like, this is what bad people do. And I'm not saying I'm glad this scene is in here, but the writers and the makers of the show took a risk doing this. And it tells a really good story about the realities of these situations that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Yeah, I actually disagree with you because I'm one of the people that thinks this was unnecessary. This is my big critique about the
Okay.
3 episodes. So like I was saying, the driver slowly approaches the house, and Bix says, in quotes, he tried to rape me. I don't think now maybe the situation is different. I don't know if I'm upset about the situation. I do not like the use of the word rape in Star Wars. We've talked about a lot on this podcast numerous times how everything Star Wars puts out needs to be on a level family friendly. Like we never need to have a rated R Star Wars because you always need to be able to show your 11-year-old what, Star Wars, because that's who it's for. And while you're absolutely right, these things happen, and it's not a black and white perspective because this is a spycraft show. This is a thriller. This is getting into adult themes more than just this. But sexual adult themes are a different line that I think it didn't need to be crossed in Star Wars, and you can get across, abuse of power, abuse of authority in a lot of ways. But you don't have to use the word rape. Despite that's what's actually happening here, they also don't have to take it as far as they do in the scene. And so I really don't know if it has a place here.
Well, and so just to further discussion, like if they'd have forced himself upon me, would that have been a little better, you think?
Probably so. That would have been a little more acceptable, but I think they still have to scale it back just slightly in how aggressive the officer gets. The dragging her to the bed part of the scene specifically is the part where it begins to cross a line in my mind for what is acceptable to be showing your 11-year-old. Like I said, that's who Star Wars is for. And this kind of stuff starts to, makes children ask questions that they may not be ready to ask, and like things like that I'm just not really sure how I feel about them including it in Star Wars. I just think it was not an odd turn. Again, I get where the show's going. The show is meant to be more adult. The show is meant to be the spycraft show.
And I'd say an 11-year-old watching this would be bored to absolute tears, except for 2 scenes in the whole thing.
Yeah, well, that's certainly true, but that's just a totally different. I mean, that's like a different conversation. But that's Star Wars is for. Again, I'll stand by forever that Star Wars is for kids. Star Wars is for 11-year-olds, and we don't need to be making Star Wars that is not kid friendly. I just don't think that that's what the galaxy is for. I think that it's about enchanting children. That's where it started, and that's where it needs to stay. I'm against the R-rated Star Wars thing, and this is an extension of that. Not that this is literally R-rated, but that this is just heading further down that direction. I mean, we have evidence that they wouldn't let them say the F word last season.
It would have been an R-rated in a different time, I think.
Yeah, it would have been. That's also true. You're right. It would have, when Star Wars was made in 1977. Yeah, this would be R-rated. Or an
R-rated scene at the least. They would have had to moderate it somehow.
Right. And so I just, I'm of the opinion also that it shouldn't have been included. Again, I think the show's a masterpiece. There's issues, and this one is not even a production issue or a story issue. It's a philosophical issue. It's a how Star Wars should be handled issue for me. Right. But anyways, continuing, Willman shows up and shoots his blaster bolt. It distracts the driver, and then Bix just ices the guy. One shot, he's dead. Shows this real commanding scene of Bix, and demonstrating she's not just a victim. That's important there for what had just happened. And what has happened to the character throughout the show, because she has been a victim many times throughout the show, and so they need to show her with some level of strength and agency also. But we then go back to Chandrila, where Tay is boarding a speeder, and it's driven by Cinta Kaz from Season 1, and she sees Vel as she boards the speeder, and it's clear that they see each other and notice each other, and then that Tay is about to be murdered to help protect Mon Mothma. I mean, that's just because he goes, "Oh, where's my normal driver?" And they're like, "Oh, he couldn't make it." It's just the mob thing. Oh, it's a different guy.
Yeah.
And so
don't get in with those guys.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know what's going to happen.
And so Cassian gets to Ferrix, in the nick of time to use the Avenger to take out the Imperial transports. I said he gets to where the Ferrex folks are. He gets to Mina Rao. Sorry. But he gets to where the Ferrex folks are, and he uses the Avenger to take out the Imperial transport. And then the guys on foot are firing at Brasso as he jets away on a speeder. And Cassian shoots those guys. This is what we were talking about with the targeting computer. This is where it comes in handy again. And then he shoots a grain tower and crushes 3 stormtroopers to death with all this grain.
Yeah,
it
crazy.
was so cool. Because of where we live, in elementary school, you will have people come in and give presentations, and it's like, don't play near bins of grain, and don't play near grain silos, because they're like quicksand, and you'll sink in those and be crushed to death. And it's,
Well, it happens.
it does. It happens.
It happens.
It absolutely
I'm gonna
happens.
type that in. I'll fill you in on how many people die in grain elevators. Can you see?
Yeah, and yes, please do. And so, like, where was a grain elevator here near where we live just a couple months ago that exploded because of the pressure created by the grain? And so, I mean, it's just dangerous. It's not, I'm not going to say it's the most dangerous thing you can work around, but it's a dangerous thing that is not thought of in any way as dangerous.
And it's for grain entrapment specifically, it's around 20 people a year.
Yeah, and that's way higher than a lot of people would think it is.
Well, you just see them on the side of the road. Nobody thinks they're just innocuous buildings to 99.9999% of people who look at them.
Right.
And that's not even to count the deaths of people who've climbed to the top of them and fallen off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's probably less of those, but they're so dangerous.
Yes, they absolutely are.
And as we see in the context here too.
Yeah, so it was cool to get to see that, like, in use. I really appreciated the crushing people to death with grain thing. But so Cassian shoots the grain tower and kills those stormtroopers, but not in time to save Brasso. Cassian lands and finds Brasso dead in a field. And I really did not expect that. That forms what I'm going to talk about in Always in Motion, but I did not expect Brasso to bite the dust this early and you know, kind of unceremoniously. Not that he was just some massive character in season 1, but a lot of fans really liked him. I know that. He was pretty popular. And he was a dear friend to Cassian.
He was the dad of the show. He was the dad of these 3 episodes.
Yes.
And so it's sad to see him go there.
Yeah, and it wasn't even, the one thing is it wasn't even really like a self-sacrificey scene like you would kind of expect from a dad of the show. Like, again, really unceremonious. Like, just kind of caught in the crossfire. Cassian's a second too late. I mean, he gets there 2 seconds earlier, and this doesn't happen.
Right.
So, yeah, really, really crazy. But Cassian lands, sees that Brasso's dead. Bix and Williman are like, what? And Cassian, we got to go. And they don't know Brasso's dead, but they just got to leave. And so then we cut back to the Chandrilla rave, and the music is at 11. It's been switching between the rave music and then, like, you know, a more low-down beat version, bass version of the music. Now it's just the rave music. And so it shows the rave, shows Mon Mothma dancing and being drunk and being upset, but you know, dancing it off. And then it cuts to Vel, who's like crying to herself because she just saw Cinta. And then it cuts to Tay in the speeder. We know he's about to get killed. And then it cuts to the Avenger, the TIE Avenger, taking off and leaving and just panning to Wilman and Bix, who are completely shell-shocked in the TIE. I mean, they're not rebels. They are just caught up in the crossfire. They're just on Cassian's rebel heels, basically. And so they are not near as familiar with death. They saw some death on Ferrex, but that was like the first time, and this is the second time. And so that's how it ends, is with just like their like petrified faces. Like, Brasso's dead. We're on the run again. They have no idea where they're gonna go. Cassian doesn't even know where they're gonna go. They're just gone for now.
I hope they'll pick up B2 EMO at the same time.
I know they left B2, and that can't be a mistake because he was a very fan favorite character. So either
they might have picked him up. Let's hope. Let's cross our fingers.
I don't know, man. I mean, they could have picked him up, but I think he might be gone. But we'll see. I really have no idea because, again, he's such a fan favorite character that, like, what happened there.
Yeah.
But that's the first 3 episodes. I mean, we're in for a treat. We've got 9 more left, and I'm pumped about them. This show set us up with the Gorman massacre to go in a really interesting way. We've got a bunch of question marks about what's going to happen with Mon Mothma and Luthen and Cassian's gang. We're in a good spot. We're in a really good spot to see some more.
Yeah, there's a lot of climaxes in this. There's really good antagonists being built up. We're in for a real treat, like you said.
Yeah, I'm pumped about it. So with that, we haven't done this one in a long time, but we're going to head on over to our Always in Motion segment.
Difficult to see. Always in motion is the future.
So for new listeners, Always in Motion is just us trying to predict the future. We're going to talk about what we think happens in next episode or in the rest of the show or where we're headed from here. And I've really only got two things to say. I've got the Gorman Massacre, which is not even really a prediction. We know that's going to happen because of Rebels, and we know that they're going to build up some kind of insurgency on there. But I just know that's going to come, and I really am hoping it comes in the next 3 episodes. I think it will be the culmination of the second arc. And then the other prediction is that each arc will see the death of one of Cassian's friends. We'll see Wilman die in the next arc. We'll see Bix die in the third arc, which is also the arc where Cassian gets united with K2SO. And then in the final arc, it will just be Cassian and K2SO. He will no longer have the friend baggage, and Cassian will be reckless and untethered as far as being a rebel goes.
Where do you think he's gonna find K2SO? Probably on Gorman, or
I don't know. I don't know about on Gorman. Maybe. You know what? It could be on Gorman because we saw in The Mandalorian when they bomb Mandalore, the K-droids walking around and executing people like Terminator style, and that could be what happens on Gorman. That could be. We could basically get a repeat of what we see on Mandalore on Gorman. And maybe that's where he finds K2SO. That's not a bad theory, actually. I'm not going to say yes, that's where it happens, but so far that's probably the best running theory I've got. But also in the Jedi games, we see that K-droids are just everywhere. They're all over the place. But that's a video game, so this is a little different.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, gosh, as far as my predictions, I hope Andy Serkis comes back somehow. I have no idea, but he'd be pretty well. It left him on a cliffhanger, right, of if he could swim or not. But him helping out in some capacity, just even as a cameo type deal, would be cool. Like last time, just to give some finality to that character. But like, what's going to happen to this TIE Avenger? What's Luthen Rail's culmination going to be? It's going to be something epic, right?
Yep.
Because he's like almost. You talk about deaths. He'll probably die right at the very end too, or something.
Yeah, he'll have some massive sacrificial
right?
death. He'll have to have some kind of massive sacrificial death. And then Melshi, you bringing up Andy Serkis's character. We are going to get Melshi again because we know he was in Rogue One, and so he and Cass take their separate ways at the end of the Narkina arc, and so it'll be interesting to see how he makes a comeback.
Yeah, it's going to be really good.
Yeah, I'm pumped about it. I'm ready for the rest of the show. I'm eager for it, and I'm looking forward to the next 9 weeks of this show.
It's going to be great.
It is. It's going to be really good. So we are going to go straight into our Star Wars moment of the week. We're going to cover HoloNet news next week because we got a lot to talk about, and we got to prepare for that HoloNet news. But
yeah, what is it? The Star Wars Celebration Japan. So
yeah.
We got a lot going on.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about out of Celebration Japan. I'll say not as much as our last celebrations. This celebration was a little lackluster. And I don't know if that's because of where Star Wars is right now, like in production schedules, or if it's because it was overseas in Japan, or what. But it was a little more lackluster. One piece of news we will talk just a little bit about is that the next celebration got announced for Star Wars' 50th anniversary. And it's going to be in Los Angeles. And we are going to be there come hell or high water. We said that about the Japan one, but that one was a little more unreasonable.
Well,
there's
a little bit more barriers to entry.
Yeah.
We had to get passports, and the flights aren't cheap, and the stay isn't cheap. I might know people in LA, right?
Right.
There's a lot to do there. I could take my kids and my family.
Yeah.
There's a lot more opportunity. You know, I'd be lost if I were in Japan.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's going to be fun when it's in LA. We're totally going to go. We're going to take our posse up there. And you know that Disneyland Star Wars is going to be crazy that weekend.
Yeah, they have characters at that Disneyland Star Wars that they don't at Disney World. So that'd be interesting.
Yeah, that would be. So we're going to go right into our Star Wars moment of the week.
We would be honored if you would join us.
We've got a pretty big shared one that I'm going to tell you guys about because I'm super excited to talk about it. But I know that, Colin, you've got another moment of the week. So what is your Star Wars moment of the week?
Well, mine was just some interesting fact that I saw on Reddit. It was hilarious when I saw it. And what is it? Somebody asked they did the math, how much it would cost to fire the Death Star. And they used the energy of they came up with a figure of energy of what it would take to disperse a planet, and it's 2 times 10 to the 27 joules of energy. And so when you extrapolate the math, you know, it's 10 cents per kilowatt hour, yada yada yada. It would cost $55.6 quintillion to fire the Death Star.
One time?
So,
one shot? Holy cow.
So, you know, science fiction, kyber crystals, yada, yada. It obviously there's not some bank that empties their vault when they fire that, but that's 550,000 times the world's current gross domestic product.
That's hilarious. Yeah,
and that's 55 quintillion divided by 100 trillion, roughly. So
yeah, and what? How many times the Death Star gets shot? It gets shot at Jeddah. It gets shot at Alderaan. It gets shot. Is it twice at Return of the Jedi? I think it gets shot twice on Return of the Jedi, and so yeah, 4 times whatever you just listed. That is crazy.
200 quintillion. That's hard to say. Quintillion.
Yeah. Well, we can't really even think about that number. That's so big. That's funny. That's hilarious.
Well, it's like above trillion is quadrillion, and that's big numbers.
No one's a trillionaire, so no one's definitely a quadrillionaire. Yeah, that's wild. That's really nuts. So our Star Wars moment of the week, it's a shared Star Wars moment of the week because we're doing this together. But the Star Wars moment of the week that I am super excited to talk about is because of this podcast. This podcast spurred our creativity, spurred Colin and I having weekly conversations about Star Wars and just diving deeper into doing games and everything else together. That we started playing Warhammer 40,000 because of this podcast, because we were seeing each other so often. Colin's been a longtime fan of that game. And we met playing Star Wars X-Wing. Well, along with our love of Star Wars, we both have a deep love of games. And so about 3 weeks ago, Colin and I opened a retail game shop, and we are super excited about it. We are totally going to be selling Star Wars games out of there, all the Star Wars board games we can find, and so it's something that we are super pumped about. Going to be having people play Star Wars Legion up there, and it's my Star Wars moment of the year so far.
Yeah, it really is. And that other one's just some interesting fact. It's a really big deal. It's got a web component to it. You know, Star Wars Station. No, that's wrong. StationGamesStore.com. Is that right?
Yep. StationGamesStore.com. That is right.
I look at that all the time, so my mind is mush when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
StationGamesStore.com. We got a bunch on there right now. We're getting the website revamped. There's an Etsy store, Warhammer Station on Etsy. We sell a lot of add-on products for Warhammer that are custom designed and really cool. We've got a lot of plans in the future for this thing too. That's going to affect a lot of the Star Wars games that you play. Tons of opportunity in that. We're going to bring some really cool Star Wars destinations to play on your tabletop game.
Yeah, Absolutely. We totally are. And so, this is the new unofficial sponsor of the podcast is stationgamestore.com. We hope that all of our listeners are going to check it out just because you guys have been so supportive of the podcast. Y'all were so supportive when we started Warhammer Station. And so we hope and know that you guys will be supportive of this as well. And so we're excited about it. We are really, really excited about it. If you're in our Discord, you may have noticed that we changed the name to Station Games. Star Wars Station isn't going anywhere. I mean, we still plan on operating the podcast, operating those social media pages. This is just another feather in the station cap for now. And so we are very excited about it, and we hope that you guys will definitely check it out.
Yeah, we're building an ecosystem, and we want you to be part of that. The Discord is just but a small cog in the machine. We got Facebook pages, Instagrams, and now you can come hang out with us locally. Come play a Star Wars game, come play a Warhammer game, come play Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, whatever you want to do. You can do it. You can hang out with us any day.
Absolutely. So thank you guys so much for listening. We loved covering Andor. Pumped to cover the next 9 episodes of it. It's going to be a treat. And May 4th's coming up fast. May 4th is here in just 2 weeks. Maybe, actually, it's here in a week. No, it's 2 weeks. It is 2 weeks. So May 4th's coming up in 2 weeks.
It feels like a week. We're so excited.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get to cover the new Tales of the Bounty Hunter show when that drops. That's going to be so awesome to talk about. I can't wait to see that Cad Bane story. And so we are excited for you guys to be along for the ride. Like we said, check us out at stationgamestore.com, but also check us out at our Star Wars Station social medias. We're at SW_station on Instagram. We're at StarWars.station on Twitter. We are on YouTube. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify. Make sure to leave us a like and give us 5-star reviews there. And we're on Twitch. We're on Discord, like we mentioned. The links to that are in the bio of this. We got a Facebook group. We got a Facebook page. Really, just keep engaging with us and checking us out in all these places.
Yep, the future's bright. Thank you all so much for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. We will see you back next week for Andor Season 2, Episode 4. And until then, you got to do one thing and one thing only, and that is stay wizard.